Chapter 1598. Welcome, everyone. The battle had come to an end. The twin dragons vying for the pearl had been destroyed. The dragon vein had been crippled, and the draconic energy deep underground had leaked out. Anyone would be jealous of such draconic energy. Net Haitian took out a red gourd and was about to use a divine ability to collect the draconic energy. However, someone was faster than Haitian. Several figures jumped into the dragon vein. These bastards. Haitian almost cursed out loud when he saw this. How dare they snatch food from Grandpa Hay? They really don't know what's good for them. He activated the red gourd in his hand. Boom. A muffled sound came from the red gourd, and a heaven-devouring power came out from it. The draconic energy in front of it immediately gathered towards the red gourd in Haitian's hand and was devoured. The draconic energy of the earth was continuously sucked into the red gourd. Soon, angry roars came from the dragon vein. Someone was directly sucked out. Swish. A divine mirror was activated and emitted a dazzling golden light that shot towards Haitian. It wanted to cut off the heaven-devouring power from the red gourd. They really don't know what's good for them. Haitian couldn't help but shake his head. He pointed a finger, and a white light pierced through the void like a bolt of lightning. It scattered the divine light and pierced through the divine mirror. That person screamed and was devoured by the red gourd in Haitian's hand. This red gourd was a magic treasure refined by Haitian himself. It contained yin and yang energy. If someone was devoured by the gourd, they would be quickly devoured by the yin and yang energy. Although the person devoured by the red gourd had the cultivation and strength of an almighty, Haitian was an almighty sovereign. That person who dared to attack Haitian was dead for sure. You didn't have to be so ruthless. Jiu Fei didn't approve of Haitian's actions. This guy was very murderous. He would take someone's life as soon as he attacked. This would easily offend people. Hihi, boss, when did you become so compassionate? Haitian smiled. He continued to use the treasure in his hand to devour the dragon vein essence energy. This kind of essence energy was very useful to him. The dragon chi contained a huge amount of life energy that could be used to refine his body. The body tempering technique was not something that only martial artists possessed. Haitian also knew the body tempering technique. You devil, you actually dare to commit murder in public. At this moment, a loud roar rang out as a powerful aura erupted from afar. Someone was walking towards Haitian with undisguised killing intent. If you want to die, then come here. If you don't want to die, then scram. Haitian was very domineering. The two dragons vying for the pearl had given birth to a massive draconic aura. Anyone who dared to snatch this draconic aura from him would be his enemy. Against enemies, Haitian's method was very simple, and that was to kill. What an arrogant devil. At this moment, another voice rang out. A silhouette appeared high up in the sky. His gaze was like cold lightning as he stared at Mahakala. Jiu Fei had already put away the mountain and river cauldron when Ghost Emperor Fengdu left. However, everyone was very apprehensive towards him. These people were all targeting Haitian. I hate these sanctimonious people the moment I see them. Nephew Jiu Zhong, help me kill them all. I will give you half of this Great Earth Draconic Aura. Haitian wanted to use the gourd to collect the Great Earth Draconic Aura. At this time, it was difficult for him to divert his attention to deal with these two annoying people. These two annoying people were not weak. This devil is committing murder in public and is incomparably fierce. What are you all waiting for? Another person jumped out. This was an old man, an old Daoist. His entire body was shrouded in immortal essence energy. His eyes seemed to have suns and moons descending. This was a powerful existence with the cultivation of a great sovereign. Master, this, Jiu Zhong looked at Jiu Fei. Half of the Great Earth Draconic Aura was very tempting to him. One must know that he was only one step away from becoming a great sovereign. However, the current Jiu Zhong was still not enough to deal with a great sovereign. Be at ease with your heart. Whatever you want to do, it all depends on your heart. Jiu Fei glanced at Jiu Zhong and said. Their lineage did not have as many rules as the other lineages. Be at ease with your heart. Jiu Zhong pondered. Master's words had a deep meaning. Master did not want to interfere too much with him. He wanted to decide everything for himself. Only by being unrestrained could one obtain limitless sublimation. If one was too restrained and indecisive, it would be very difficult to achieve anything. They would definitely not be able to become a peerless expert. At this moment, the three experts were already approaching the mountain peak. Their powerful auras spread out in all directions, causing ripples to appear in the void that were visible to the naked eye. These three were extremely powerful, all of them were great sovereigns. Swish! Jiyu Fei directly rushed out from the mountain. He did not want to fight. With your cultivation, you will not be able to fight against these three. However, if you use the Heaven Ascension secret technique, you will still have the strength to fight against them. Jiyu Fei transmitted his voice to Jiyu Zhong. Thank you for your guidance, Master. Jiyu Zhong bowed in Jiyu Fei's direction. After that, a monstrous aura erupted from his body. His long hair danced in the wind as his fat body emitted a terrifying pressure. The three experts who were approaching the mountain peak sensed the changes in Jiyu Zhong's body and immediately stopped. A solemn expression appeared on their faces. This person was only at the 9th heavenly layer of sky being. How could he be able to unleash such a powerful energy fluctuation? Good nephew, quickly kill them. Seeing that Jiyu Zhong was moved by his words, He Tian couldn't help but rejoice. Of course, he knew that this was Jiyu Fei tempering his disciple. Otherwise, if Jiyu Fei were to act, these three would have been killed instantly. Kill. Without any hesitation, Jiyu Zhong's right foot stomped on the ground. His entire body turned into a 5-colored divine light that soared into the sky and rushed towards the old man. Jiyu Zhong's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of the old man. The powerful pressure made the old man almost unable to breathe. The old Taoist was shocked. He left an afterimage on the spot, and his real body quickly retreated to avoid the attack. Bam! Jiyu Zhong's strength was unparalleled. He directly used the 5 elements fist. His martial body was the 5 elements martial body. A bright golden light bloomed from his fist, dyeing the heaven and earth golden. At this time, the cultivators who had yet to leave saw that someone was fighting. They were all shocked and watched from afar. Some of them recognized the origin of the three experts. Isn't that old man the supreme elder of the Tai Ching temple? That middle-aged man seems to be the younger brother of the Song clan's patriarch. And that young cultivator, isn't that the young master of the immortal sword sect? These three experts all had great origins. They were all experts of the great sects in Yangdu, especially the young master of the immortal sword sect. Although he looked young, like a young cultivator who had just started his cultivation, he was actually not young. He had started his cultivation 1,000 years ago. The young master of the immortal sword sect's father was still alive. Therefore, he could only be the young master of the immortal sword sect for 1,000 years. Jiyu Zhong was as domineering as Jiyu Fei, forcing the old man back with a single punch. After that, he directly used the 8 desolate steps and took a step forward, displaying the 8 slaughter steps. A destructive power surged under his feet as he stomped towards the head of the young sect master of the immortal sword sect. At the same time, he pointed out with a finger, and a ray of divine light shot out from the tip of his finger, piercing towards the expert of the Song clan. He was too strong. He actually attacked 3 great emperors at the same time. Jiyu Zhong's performance made all the spectators dumbfounded. Chapter 1599. The fact that Jiyu Zhong attacked the 3 great emperors at the same time left everyone dumbfounded. One should know that these were great emperors. Even with the advent of the human realm, such figures were still rare. The Yang capital was the capital of the Yang dynasty. It was also a place where a true dragon was born. All the great sects within 100,000 miles of the Yang dynasty were gathered in the Yang capital. The place where Yang Hao and Dong Huang fought was only 3,000 miles away from the Yang capital. Almost all the great sects in the Yang capital came to watch the battle. The emperors of the 3 great emperors were all famous in the Yang capital. Whether it was the old Daoist of Tai Ching Temple, the young sect master of the immortal sword sect, or the brother of the Song clan lord, they were enough to intimidate an entire region. Boom! Ji Yuzhong punched the old daoist of Taiching Temple. The power of the golden element fist shook the sky and the earth, forcing the old daoist to retreat. Bang! He then used the 8 steps 8 kills of the 8 desolation steps. His right foot stomped down on the head of the young sect master of the immortal sword sect. The sound of wind and thunder appeared under his feet, and a destructive power spread out. Ji Yuzhong's hands were not idle. He punched the old daoist of Taiching Temple, stepped on the young sect master of the immortal sword sect, and stretched out his right hand to point at the brother of the Song clan lord. Whoosh! A beam of divine light shot out from the tip of Ji Yuzhong's finger like a peerless sword light. It directly pierced through the void and shot towards the expert of the Song clan in an instant. The speed of Ji Yuzhong's attacks was extremely fast. Moreover, they were executed in one go without the slightest bit of sloppiness. The battle prowess he displayed caused even the 3 almighty emperors to be extremely fearful. Ji Yuzhong, who was in the midst of the secret art of ascension, felt that his entire body was filled with power. It was as if he could punch a hole in the sky with a single punch. Although the 9 secrets of immortal Tao was a supreme art created by the supreme Tao ancestor, this secret art could be used by people of other cultivation systems. It was not limited to only cultivators of the immortal Tao. Of course, Ji Yuzhong's path was the martial Tao. He didn't cultivate his nascent spirit, only his vitality. Thus, without a nascent spirit, he couldn't cultivate the sword of the primordial divinity of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Only his master, Ji Yufei, who had accidentally obtained a primordial spirit, was able to display the supreme technique of the primordial spirit Tao sword. However, Ji Yuzhong was not as lucky as his master. Rumble! The power radiating out from Ji Yuzhong's body caused the entire world to shake. The young sect master of the immortal sword sect transformed into a beam of sword light, which shot out from beneath Ji Yuzhong's feet. As for the Song family's expert, he did not dare to take Ji Yuzhong's attack head-on. Thus, he also unleashed a great technique to dodge. He forced back 3 great emperors by himself. This kind of result caused everyone to be flabbergasted. It was too shocking. This fellow was too heaven-defying. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out. A resplendent beam of sword light shot out from the body of the young sect master of the immortal sword sect. Within the beam of sword light, there was a purple divine sword. A wave of saintly might spread out from the purple divine sword. This was a divine sword. It emitted an unparalleled killing intent. It was unknown how many lives it had to kill in order to condense such a killing intent. Swish! The young sect master unleashed the immortal sword slaying technique. The purple divine sword transformed into a beam of sword light, which directly slashed towards Ji Yuzhong. The attack of the divine sword caused the world to change color. Ji Yuzhong used the 8 desolation steps, displaying the world's fastest speed. He rushed out from under the terrifying sword light and rushed towards the expert from the Song family. The expert from the Song family was startled. However, as a great emperor, his cultivation was also incomparably powerful. His hands danced in front of him, and divine runes of the great Tao appeared in the void. After that, they rushed towards Ji Yuzhong to seal him. He wanted to use absolute power to seal Ji Yuzhong. Each rune was like a huge mountain, containing the power of the great Tao. The void was collapsing. Ji Yuzhong felt great danger. Bang! Boundless fire chi rushed out from his right fist as he struck out the fire element fist. His martial path true chi turned into a divine fire and swept forward. Countless runes dissipated in the sea of fire. However, Ji Yuzhong's fist was also blocked by the expert from the Song family. A great emperor is indeed powerful. Ji Yuzhong couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. However, he knew that as long as he could break through to the almighty realm, he would be able to compete with a great emperor if he used the Heaven Ascension secret technique. At this time, the old daoist from the Taiching Temple also made his move. The horsetail whisk in his hand transformed into 3,000 huge dragons that coiled towards Ji Yuzhong. Such a method was enough to shock the world. The threads of the horsetail whisk in the old daoist's hand seemed to be refined from 3,000 huge dragons. Each thread transformed into a huge dragon. It was incomparably terrifying. Everyone watching the battle watched this scene nervously. The old Daoist from the Tai Ching temple was too terrifying. Such a great technique shocked everyone. Even Ji Yufei was sweating for Ji Yuzhong. "Nephew, put in a bit more effort. I will come to help you immediately." At this time, He Tian drove the scarlet gourd in his hand with all his strength and frantically devoured the dragon energy of the earth. Those who rushed into the dragon vein had no choice but to jump out from the ground. He Tian didn't care about the life and death of those who dared to snatch food from him. One hand covering the sky, Ji Yuzhong roared and slammed his palm towards the 3,000 huge dragons. The violent 5-elemental true force condensed into a 5-colored giant hand that blocked the entire sky. Rumble. This was an unforgettable scene for everyone. A colorless giant hand collided with the 3,000 huge dragons. The entire sky and earth seemed to be collapsing as a terrifying power rippled in all directions. Ji Yuzhong's power was so powerful that it made the heart of a great emperor palpitate. He directly defeated the 3,000 huge dragons and forced the old Daoist from the Tai Ching temple to retreat again. It wasn't a wise move to compete with a martial artist in terms of power. It should be known that martial artists walked the path of cultivation through power. Their martial path true force was extremely powerful. In fact, Ji Yuzhong was already straining himself to use the secret art of ascension to fight against the 3 great emperors. Every time he attacked, he gave it his all and didn't hold anything back. At the start, it seemed that he was so powerful that even the great emperors had to retreat. However, Ji Yuzhong knew that if the 3 great emperors could catch their breath, he would be in trouble. Moreover, the secret art of ascension had a time limit. Ji Yuzhong couldn't maintain the state of ascension forever. Once he returned to his normal state, any great emperor would be able to kill him. However, with Ji Yufei supporting him, Ji Yuzhong didn't have any worries. At this time, the 3 almighty emperors started to counterattack. Each of them displayed their peerless battle prowess, especially the young sect master of the immortal sword sect. He wielded a saint sword and posed the greatest threat to Ji Yuzhong. Ji Yuzhong and the 3 great emperors fought endlessly. He didn't fight against the divine sword head-on. He only clashed with the old Daoist and the experts of the Song family. The void was constantly pierced. Seeing that Ji Yuzhong could endure for so long under the joint attack of the 3 great emperors, no one dared to believe what they were seeing. All of this had already subverted everyone's understanding. How could a 9th layer of the heaven realm contend against 3 great emperors? Chapter 1600. Ji Yuzhong's combat strength was unparalleled. He fought against 3 almighty emperors alone and even pierced through heaven and earth. This battle was even more soul-stirring than the battle between Yang Hao and Dong Huang. The combat strength of almighty emperors was absolutely terrifying. Ji Yuzhong brushed shoulders with death at every moment. He was almost slashed by the sacred sword of the young master of the immortal sword sect several times. If it wasn't for his desolate steps, he would have been defeated long ago. In the distant sky, Ji Yufei quietly looked at the battlefield in front of him. The place had almost turned into a piece of chaos. Ji Yuzhong's performance had exceeded his expectations. The time limit of the secret art of ascension is almost up. It's time to end it, Ji Yufei said to himself. Ji Yuzhong could not maintain the state of ascension forever. As long as his state of ascension disappeared, the 3 almighty emperors would be able to kill him in an instant. Of course, it was impossible for Ji Yufei to allow his only disciple to be killed. At this time, the dragon chi in the earth dragon vein had almost been collected by He Tian's scarlet gourd. He Tian stopped. He knew that if he did not take action, Ji Yuzhong would be in trouble. "Nephew Ji Yu, I'm coming." Mahakala put away the crimson gourd filled with earth dragon chi, then shot up into the sky from the mountaintop. With just one step, he rushed into the battlefield. Boom! The yin and yang essence chi suddenly erupted and a black and white yin-yang diagram appeared in the void. The 3 almighty emperors were sent flying. They were all extremely shocked. "Nephew Ji Yu, go and take a rest. After I kill these 3 guys, I will give you half of the earth dragon chi." He Tian directly threw Ji Yuzhong out. This He Tian, Jiu Fei shook his head. Those 3 almighty emperors were going to be unlucky. Since they provoked this fellow, there was no way they would be able to get away with it. With Mahakala's cultivation, it would not be difficult for him to kill these 3 almighty emperors. The 3 almighty emperors felt uneasy. The battle prowess He Tian displayed was too powerful. He sent 3 almighty emperors flying with a single move. This made everyone's hearts palpitate. "Mph, didn't you just say that I'm a demon? Now that I'm standing here, I'd like to see how you're going to kill me." He Tian's cold gaze swept across the faces of the 3 almighty emperors. The hearts of the 3 almighty emperors trembled. They could feel He Tian's killing intent. This time, they had kicked an iron plate. They had never expected this fellow to be so powerful. In the world of cultivation, the strong preyed on the weak. That was the most primitive rule. In the end, whoever had the hardest fist was the boss. Right now, He Tian's fist was harder than the 3 almighty emperors, so the 3 almighty emperors did not say anything. "What, are you all mute?" He Tian's face was filled with disdain. He hated these righteous fellas the most. The moment they opened their mouths, they would call him a demon. It was as though they were the only ones in the world of cultivation who were not demons. "I think there's a misunderstanding here," the old Daoist from Shongqing Temple said. At this moment, the blood energy within the old Daoist's body was still rumbling. That tremble from He Tian earlier was incomparably powerful, causing the old Daoist to suffer a huge impact. The young sect master of the Immortal Sword sect and the experts from the Song family were not having a good time either. "Misunderstanding? There's no misunderstanding. Right now, I, the demon, am going to kill you 3 demon slayer heroes." The power of yin and yang interweaved on He Tian's body as a yin-yang diagram appeared faintly on his body. A powerful might spread out from his body. They were all almighty emperors. However, the old Daoist and the others could sense an extremely dangerous aura coming from He Tian's body. "What are you afraid of? Let's attack together. I refuse to believe that he can really kill us." The young sect master of the Immortal Sword sect was very domineering because he had a holy sword in his hand. The purple holy sword circled around the young sect master, emitting waves of holy sword energy that protected him. He believed that no one would be able to break through the defense of the holy sword. However, a translucent sword light that could not be seen by the naked eye flashed by, and the head of the young sect master flew into the air. "What?" The Daoist from the Shongqing Temple and the experts from the Song clan were both shocked, and quickly backed away from Mai Tian. Mai Tian had killed the junior house lord in the blink of an eye. He has a holy sword too. The old Daoist from Shongqing Temple had an extremely ugly expression on his face. The others had no idea how the young sect master was killed, but the old Daoist was able to see through it. "Reckless fool." He Tian cursed. Then, he stepped forward with the intention of retrieving the purple holy sword. However, when He Tian killed the young sect master of the Immortal Sword sect, the purple holy sword let out a deafening cry, soared into the sky, and actually flew away on its own. Even 10 young sect masters of the Immortal Sword sect would not be enough to kill the invisible divine sword. The invisible divine sword contained killing intent. When it struck the young sect master of the Immortal Sword sect, it also destroyed his primordial spirit. Almighty emperors might be strong, but they couldn't withstand an attack from a holy sword. This was the reason why Jiu Zhong didn't dare to let the young sect master's purple holy sword get close to him. Even if he didn't die, he would be half dead if he was hit by the holy sword. He actually killed the young sect master of the Immortal Sword sect. This is going to be a disaster. The sect master of the Immortal Sword sect is said to be a half-saint. This is going to be a good show. Seeing that He Tian had killed the young master of the Immortal Sword sect on the spot, everyone was shocked. That was the young master of the Immortal Sword sect. He was no ordinary almighty being. His half-saint father would never let this matter rest. At the moment when Mahakala killed the young sect master of the Immortal Sword sect, a furious roar rang out from the Yang capital. This furious roar echoed through the entire Yang capital, startling everyone. Soon after, on a mountain ridge in the Yang capital, a silhouette dashed out. This silhouette disappeared into the void in an instant. His speed was so fast that it was inconceivable. Kill. He Tian didn't stop. He rushed towards the old Daoist and the expert from the Song family. The yin-yang diagram rushed out from his body and enveloped the entire sky. Rumble. The void trembled as the yin-yang diagram revolved. Streams of yin and yang energy fell down from the sky like a huge dragon, sealing off the escape route of the two almighty emperors. Killing us won't do you any good. The middle-aged man from the Song clan couldn't keep his composure anymore. He was already regretting his decision to provoke this malefic star. Yes, you should know that we all have a powerful force behind us. The old Daoist from the Shongqing temple said. It was obvious that he wanted to make He Tian feel apprehensive. However, they were wrong this time. He Tian didn't care about the forces behind them. He dared to provoke the original Emperor's Yan of the Heaven world, so why would he be afraid of the forces in the human world? Whether it was the Immortal Sword Sect, the Song family or the Shongqing temple, He Tian ignored them all. He continued to press towards the old Daoist and the middle-aged man, ready to attack at any time. Chapter 1601. Rumble. The yin-yang diagram in the sky descended, sending down endless yin and yang energy, suppressing the world. He Tian did not show mercy. He wanted to kill the two almighty emperors directly. Thousands of yin and yang energy turned into killing light, falling from the diagram in the sky, destroying everything in its path. The void was collapsing, turning into chaos and nothingness. Those who dare to provoke me, if I can't kill them, I'll hide. If I can kill them, I'll kill them all. He Tian's cold voice rang out, his murderous intent soaring into the sky. The old Daoist from Shongqing Temple and the cultivator from the Song family of Yenju all had ugly expressions on their faces. He's a fiend. The old Daoist from Shongqing Temple waved the horsetail whisk in his hand, and the 3,000 whisk threads immediately turned into 3,000 dragons, soaring into the sky, wanting to break through the sealing power of the yin-yang diagram and rush out. When the almighty emperors attacked with their full strength, they naturally had a shocking momentum. The old Daoist from Shongqing Temple shone with divine light, and within the divine light, there were countless Tao patterns faintly visible. This was the power of the great path that he had cultivated. At this time, the old Daoist from Shongqing Temple could no longer hide his strength. The opponent was too strong. Master, do you think Uncle Master He will succeed? At this time, the fat Jiyu Zhong stood behind Jiyu Fei, watching the battle in front of him. He had already retreated from the state of ascension. Who is your Uncle Master He? This guy never does anything he's not sure of, said Jiyu Fei. With He Tian's current cultivation, it would not be difficult for him to take down these two people. Moreover, he had an invisible divine sword in his hand. When the old Daoist from Shongqing Temple attacked with all his strength, the cultivator from the Song family of Yenju also attacked. A divine light emerged from his brow, and a golden cauldron rushed out from his Niwen palace. Buzz! In the midst of the rumbling sound, the golden cauldron shone with endless golden light, instantly becoming as huge as a mountain, wanting to push open the yin-yang diagram. Above the golden cauldron, there was a ripple of saint power, which made He Tian become serious. This cauldron was a saint item. Swoosh! He Tian immediately used the invisible god sword. An almost transparent sword light rushed out of his hand and directly killed the 3,000 dragons that soared into the sky. The horsetail whisk in the old Daoist's hand was actually an ancient artifact. It was an immortal artifact refined by a being who was close to becoming a saint. However, 3,000 strands of its whisk were severed by He Tian's invisible sword. The dragons that had been severed turned back into tiny silver threads and floated down from the sky. The old Taoist priest spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. This divine artifact of the immortal Tao had been refined by him for countless years. It had already reached the point where it was connected to his mind. The destruction of the divine artifact had also affected him. Cultivators of the immortal Tao had always refined protective treasures. As the cultivator's cultivation level gradually increased, the power of the protective treasures would also gradually increase. For cultivators of the immortal Tao, the protective treasures they refined were like an extension of their bodies, closely connected to them. Primordial spirits and consciousnesses could be refined into an immortal artifact. Such an artifact possessed great power, but if it was broken, the owner of the artifact would also be affected. No. The sword light fell, and the old Daoist from the Shangqingguan temple was scared out of his wits. He felt a chill run down his spine, and in the next moment, he lost consciousness. The old Daoist could not stop He Tian's invisible sword light. One should know that this was a saint weapon. Even if it had not been awakened, it was still not something a great emperor could contend with. Everyone was stupefied when they saw this scene. This person actually killed another supreme elder of High Clarity Temple. This enmity was too great to the point of piercing through the heavens. The Immortal Sword Sect and Shangqingguan Temple were both great sects in the Yenju. Sects that could be called great sects were all existences that had existed for countless years. The sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect was a half-saint. A half-saint with the Tao of the Sword was much more terrifying than an ordinary half-saint because the Tao of the Sword was the Tao of slaughter. As for the Shangqingguan Temple, there seemed to be a mysterious expert presiding over it as well. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the Shangqingguan Temple to continue existing in the Yenju. This person is insane. He actually offended two great powers in the Yenju at the same time. Look, he's going to kill the younger brother of the Song clan's patriarch. At this moment, He Tian had no intention of stopping. After killing the old Daoist, he directly pressed towards the middle-aged expert from the Song clan. The sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect will be here soon. You'll die without a burial. The expert from the Song clan couldn't help but shudder when he saw He Tian kill two great emperors in a row. This fellow's cultivation was only at the great emperor realm, but he was much stronger than them. Before I die a graveless death, you will die a graveless death first. A cruel smile appeared on He Tian's face. Then, the yin-yang diagram descended from the sky. The mighty power of yin and yang was unexpectedly strong enough to resist the golden divine cauldron of the Song clan's expert. Damn it! The expert from the Song clan attacked with all his strength. The golden light emitted from the golden divine cauldron illuminated the heaven and earth. A terrifying power erupted from the golden divine cauldron. Countless Tao patterns appeared on the surface of the golden divine cauldron. Each of the Tao patterns bloomed with immortal light and interweaved with the power of the great Tao. This was a quasi-sage tool that already possessed the aura of a sage tool. However, the golden divine cauldron was not a true sage tool. He Tian directly controlled the invisible divine sword and directly split the golden divine cauldron in half. Under the blade of the invisible divine sword, even a divine weapon refined by a quasi-saint would be destroyed in a single strike, unless it was a divine weapon of the same level. What? The golden divine cauldron of the Song clan was split in half. That is a famous divine tool in the Yang capital. When they saw this scene, the spectators in the distance were dumbstruck. This person was pitilessly domineering, and he actually acted without the slightest scruple. He killed as he pleased without any hesitation. Could it be that man? Someone thought of the battle that had taken place in the Wu land. That battle had attracted the attention of countless people. A divine weapon of the Great Path had been awakened, and all the experts on the Tinglong continent had sensed it. It really seems to be that man. Some people had been to the battlefield in the Wu land, and many of them had seen He Tian's appearance. At this time, some people began to recognize He Tian. What? Isn't that the man who injured the chaotic Daoist body? Someone noticed Ji Yufei. On the day when Ji Yufei and the chaotic Daoist body fought in the starry sky, many ancient experts had witnessed that battle. After recognizing He Tian and Ji Yufei, all the old-timers who knew the inside story sucked in a breath of cold air. No wonder these people were so domineering and didn't put the great sects of Swallow Capital in their eyes. Rumble, just as He Tian killed the experts of the Song clan, an extremely powerful aura spread from the direction of the Yang capital, shocking all the heavens. A peerless figure was approaching at high speed. I recommend a book by a friend, Invincible Martial Saint. Those who like fantasy should read it. Chapter 1602. A terrifying aura swept over from the direction of the Yang capital. Everyone could feel an immense divine might that could shake the heavens and earth. It was terrifying to the extreme. A half-step saint. In the sky, Jiu Fei frowned. These peerless characters were finally going to come out. There were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Yang capital. It wasn't strange for one or two half-step saints to come out. It would be strange if there weren't any half-step saints in a place like the Yang capital. Damn it. He Tian's expression changed when he sensed the aura. That person wasn't lying. A half-step saint had arrived. A shocking sword aura caused the world to lose its color. Is that the half-step saint from the immortal sword sect? Some of the old antiques in the vicinity hadn't left yet. They knew who it was. There was only one person in the entire Yang capital who could have such a powerful sword aura. How dare you kill my son? Hand over your life. A loud roar shook the 9 heavens, and even the clouds in the sky were dispersed. Everyone's mind was shaken, and some people with weaker cultivations even directly fainted. The shout shook the mountains and the rivers. The newcomer was extremely powerful. Clang! The sword chime sounded like a dragon's roar as a resplendent swordlight appeared several hundred miles away. The moment the swordlight appeared, it had already cleaved down on the space above He Tian's head. The swordlight's momentum was ferocious, and its speed was unimaginable. The swordlight became the only thing in the world. He Tian's yin-yang diagram was cut in half by the sword light. Not even the great Tao of yin and yang was enough to stop it. What? He Tian was shocked. The newcomer's killing power was so strong that he wasn't a match for him. He felt a great sense of danger when the sword light descended. Buzz! He desperately drove the invisible divine sword upwards to block the attack. That almost transparent sword light solidified, and countless almost transparent Tao patterns appeared. Clang! There was another deafening sound as the sword light descended from the sky and collided with He Tian's invisible divine sword. All the spectators could hear was a buzzing sound in their ears, and then they couldn't hear anything else. Some of the old-timers closest to He Tian had blood oozing out of their ears. All the spectating seniors turned pale with fright, and they hurriedly retreated towards the distance so as to avoid being affected by the battle. If they were to suffer a calamity, then they would die an unjust death. Yang City was indeed the capital city of the great Yang dynasty. There were more than 10 powerful warriors of the older generation that came from Yang City. Jiu Fei could sense more than 10 powerful auras. Some people wanted to hide their auras, but they couldn't escape Jiu Fei's eyes. Jiu Fei had reason to believe that these powerful warriors were only the tip of the iceberg. One had to know that all the great sects of the great Yang dynasty had set up their bases in Yang City. However, there was no time for Jiu Fei to think about these things. He Tian was in danger, and if he didn't act, then He Tian would probably die again today. He Tian's body was very strange. It was unknown what secret technique he cultivated, but he could continuously reincarnate. It seemed as if no one could truly destroy his soul. Without any suspense, Mai Tian was slashed down from the sky by this frightening sword. Even the invisible divine sword was sent flying by the impact. He managed to block the sword. Hey! The person in the distance was shocked. He didn't think that He Tian would be able to block his sword. One had to know that this was a sword strike with all his strength. How could an almighty emperor fight against a half-step sage? Even He Tian couldn't. You are dead. The sect master of the immortal sword sect walked over from afar. Sword-shaped Tao patterns appeared around his body. It was as though heavenly swords were circling around him. This was an old man with a long beard. His entire body was like an unsheathed sword, emitting sharp sword energy. His eyes opened and closed, and sword energy shot out of them. The sect leader of Immortal Sword Sect was extremely powerful, like a supreme being above the 9 heavens, looking down on the world. Roar! He Tian rushed up from the ground. He had been hacked down from the sky by the Celestial Sword Sect's old sect leader and suffered a great impact. A wave of sword energy entered his body. Boom! Countless Tao patterns appeared on He Tian's body. Inside his body, there was a terrifying power awakening. Billions of Tao patterns turned into formation patterns and imprinted themselves in the sky. Rumble, in just a blink of an eye, a super formation appeared between the heaven and earth, emitting a monstrous killing intent. Everyone was dumbfounded. The heaven and earth shook, and the power of heaven and earth gathered towards the formation crazily. This was He Tian's killer move, imprinting the void with formation patterns, turning the void into a killing formation. Formation Grandmaster? Even the sect leader of Immortal Sword Sect was shocked. He Tian's method of forming a formation out of the void was indeed shocking. It wasn't something that an ordinary person could do. In the current human realm, there was no such existence. Even in this great world, it was difficult to find another formation master who could form a formation out of thin air. Even in this world, it was difficult to go to the heaven realm. Old man, you want to avenge your son? Seems like you won't have the chance. Although He Tian was an almighty emperor, he was a formation grandmaster. He could form a formation out of the void. This was a killing formation formed by interweaving yin and yang Dao patterns, which could increase his combat strength by 3 times. You are still not enough. The sect leader of Immortal Sword Sect sneered. Trying to fight against him with such a method? This guy was still not strong enough. One should know that he was a half-saint. Clang. The sect leader of Immortal Sword Sect turned into a divine sword and slashed into He Tian's killing formation. The shocking sword chi tore the void and He Tian's killing formation apart. Hehe, I'm afraid that you won't come in, He Tian sneered. Without hesitation, he executed the Heaven Ascension secret technique. His aura instantly soared to a level that could change the color of the heaven and earth. Boom! Billions of runes emitted a dazzling divine light. All of the runes emitted a blinding light, and the entire world seemed to be burning with a divine fire. He Tian disregarded the consequences and executed the strongest attack of the killing formation. The formation patterns burned, turning into a terrifying destructive force that obliterated everything. The sect leader of Immortal Sword Sect was shocked. He didn't expect He Tian to have such a move. He didn't know what secret technique this guy used to increase his combat strength to such a level that even the sect leader was shocked. Endless destructive divine light swept towards the sect leader from all directions. Every ray of divine light was enough to collapse a mountain range. The power of the great Tao contained within was enough to injure a saint. He Tian, this guy, Ji Yufei saw this scene and wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Given He Tian's means, even if he couldn't kill this sword Tao half-saint, he could at least make him suffer. Billions of formation patterns burned. The void within a radius of 10,000 feet was turned into a land of destruction. The void was annihilated and chaotic chi rushed out. The old sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect roared out again and again. He was in big trouble. Chapter 1603. He Tian was ruthless. He used one of the 9 secrets of the Immortal Tao, the Ascension secret art, to challenge a half-step saint. Boundless killing light soared into the sky, turning the void into a land of destruction. The runes of the killing formation burned. He Tian didn't care about the price. He wanted to teach a half-step saint a lesson. So what if the opponent was a half-step saint? Raw. The old sect master was in big trouble inside the killing formation. The runes turned into killing light and interweaved with each other, causing the void to be annihilated. Everyone was dumbfounded and speechless. This ruthless person actually dared to trick a half-step saint. This was too heaven-defying. One should know that this was a half-step saint. In the entire mortal world, no one could suppress a half-step saint except for existences like Ghost Emperor Fengju. A half-step saint could do as they pleased in the mortal world. No great emperor had ever dared to challenge a half-step saint. But today, everyone's understanding was shattered. It turned out that a great emperor could also fight against a half-step saint. Of course, a great emperor challenging a half-step saint was absolutely a heaven-defying act. One must have something to rely on in order to dare to do such a thing. He Tian was a formation grandmaster and cultivated one of the 9 secrets of the Immortal Tao, the Ascension secret art. With all these factors combined, he had the qualifications to challenge a half-step saint. However, Erebus, who was in the middle of the killing array, wasn't feeling too good either. He felt as if all the blood in his body was burning. Terrifying cracks had appeared on his yin-yang divine body. He was under great pressure. Even his powerful yin-yang physique was on the verge of collapse. He knew that it would be difficult for him to recover his vitality after this battle. Buzz. Sword hymns kept coming out from the killing formation. The old sect master displayed his peerless combat strength. A divine sword swept through the heavens and earth, seemingly about to rush out from the killing formation. Rumble. The entire killing formation was shaking. Runes were constantly being destroyed by the resplendent sword light, and the destroyed runes were immediately repaired. The power of the killing array grew ceaselessly. It was as though a world-destroying millstone was spinning and an endless stream of destructive light shot towards the old sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect. Kill. The old sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect was simply too strong. A furious roar rang out from within the killing array. Even though he was enveloped by the endless destructive light, he was still able to advance step by step towards He Tian, who was in the middle of the killing array. The old sect master's footsteps were firm and steady, as if nothing could stop him. "Boss, if you don't make a move, Old Black, will die here today." At this time, He Tian had no choice but to ask Ji Yufei for help. If this continued, even if he didn't die, his vitality would be greatly damaged. It would take a long time for him to recover. Now that the human world was about to enter a great era, He Tian didn't want to miss such a grand occasion. In the distant sky, Ji Yufei also knew that He Tian would be in danger if he didn't make a move. Although no one could really kill this guy, it would still be troublesome if this guy's vitality was severely damaged. As the human world was about to enter a great era, many places needed He Tian's help. One should know that there was no Grandmaster of Formation in the human world. With the help of a Grandmaster of Formation, Ji Yufei was confident that he could compete with anyone. "Let's stop here." Ji Yufei shouted and was about to make a move. But at this time, two shocking auras came from the direction of Yang City. Two half-step saints were rushing towards this place at high speed. Are half-step saints so worthless? Ji Yufei frowned. He didn't expect two more half-step saints to jump out. There were indeed many peerless characters hidden in Yang City. A white figure appeared in front of Ji Yufei. It was a middle-aged man in white robes. His body was surrounded by 9 rays of divine light. The power of the immortal Tao covered the sky and covered the earth. It was as if Emperor Xian had descended from the 9 heavens. Images of divine beasts appeared around the middle-aged man, and their terrifying auras caused everyone's expressions to change. At this moment, another half-saint appeared. His appearance caused everyone to be stunned. Because it was actually a child around the age of 10. What? Even Ji Yufei was stunned. A half-step saint in his teens? That's impossible. This child should be a super ancient. The child wore red robes and had a golden necklace around his neck. His hair was tied into 2 high buns, and the image of a dragon appeared beneath his feet with every step he took. That person is. Could it be that person from the legends? Some of the ancient who had lived for countless years seemed to have recognized the half-step saint. Their expressions changed. If it really was that person, then there would be a good show to watch. Some of them started retreating. "Who killed my disciple?" The half-saint who looked like a child spoke. His voice was extremely old, and it was very different from his appearance. It was very awkward to listen to. "Someone actually dared to kill my brother? Damn it." The middle-aged man was incomparably powerful. He hadn't even arrived yet, but his aura was already surging out, causing everyone's souls to tremble. "Child Primeval Chaos, old ghost song, this person is mine." The voice of the Immortal Sword Sect's old sect leader rang out from the killing formation. With a sword in his hand, he could break through all divine arts. The boundless divine light of annihilation crumbled under his sword. The new arrivals were none other than the master of the Song clan and the master of the Prime Elder of the High Clarity Monastery. Their backgrounds were so powerful that everyone present was shocked. "Old Ghost Sword, could it be that this person killed my disciple?" Child Primeval Chaos took a step forward, and the image of a true dragon appeared beneath his feet. He charged into the killing formation and attacked He Tian. Primordial Chaos Boy was also very powerful. His hands turned into 2 dragon shadows and broke through the killing array, displaying his powerful battle prowess. Two half-step saints attacking an almighty emperor? Don't you have any shame? Ji Yufei shouted and took a step forward. He charged into the killing formation and sent a palm strike at the two half-step saints. The violent martial path true force condensed into a huge hand that covered the entire sky. Be it the old sect master of the immortal sword sect or the primordial child, both of them were shocked. Ji Yufei's palm strike was so powerful that it shook heaven and earth, causing them to be shocked. Buzz. The old house lord put away his divine sword and used it to protect himself as he charged out from Ji Yufei's attack. However, primordial chaos boy didn't dodge. He retracted his hands and struck upwards. Two chaotic dragons rushed out from his hands and a powerful force shattered the void. Boom! There was a loud bang as Ji Yufei's hand collided with Primordius Boy's fists. An extremely powerful force erupted between the two. Countless formation runes were destroyed. The power of the two experts destroyed everything. Even Erebus killing formation couldn't withstand it, and a corner of it was directly destroyed. Chapter 1604. With two half-sages attacking, He Tian was definitely not their match. Ji Yufei had no choice but to make a move. He struck out with his palm and immediately resolved He Tian's predicament. The Sword Immortal Sect's old sect master was unwilling to fight Ji Yufei head-on. His body and sword became one, transforming into a sword beam that charged out from under Ji Yufei's hand. As for Primordial Chaos Boy, he did not dodge. Instead, he punched out with both fists, clashing fiercely with Ji Yufei. The power of a half-sage shattered the void, revealing a terrifying divine might. A half-sage was a powerful existence that had 1 foot in the sage realm. Although they were not a sage, they already had a trace of a sage's aura. A sage might emanated from Primordial Chaos Boy's body, causing everyone's heart to palpitate. Under this sage might, no one could muster the thought of resisting. However, Ji Yufei was an exception. Boom! Ji Yufei's hand collided with Primordial Chaos Boy's fists. The powerful force that erupted destroyed everything. Even a corner of He Tian's killing array collapsed. He Tian took advantage of the instant Ji Yufei and Primordial Chaos Boy clashed to control the killing array and charged out. At this moment, he was about to exit the Ascension state. Ji Yufei was sent flying, while Primordial Chaos Boy was slapped down from the sky by Ji Yufei's palm, smashing a short mountain below. Buzz! The void trembled and the entire void collapsed. Ji Yufei's power and Primordial Chaos Boy's power collided and cancelled each other out, turning the void into primal chaos. Ji Yufei was secretly alarmed. This Primordial Chaos Boy was extremely powerful, far stronger than an ordinary half-sage. He was a powerful opponent. Furthermore, there were 2 half-sages staring at him. He felt a great deal of pressure. Even Ji Yufei did not have the confidence to fight 3 half-sages by himself. 3 half-sages. If he did not use the Extreme Dao Divine Sword, he would probably die with a grievance. Who are you? Why are you standing up for that person? The head of the Song clan pressed forward. Divine phoenixes and dragons appeared in the air around him. The power of the immortal Dao was vast and mighty. He was like the Supreme Emperor's Yan, and it was difficult to look at him directly. Humph. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Why are you being so long-winded? Ji Yufei's long hair fluttered in the wind, and divine patterns of the Great Path appeared on his body. A terrifying power awakened on his body. At this time, he no longer suppressed his own cultivation. He's just an almighty sovereign. How could he possibly fight against a half-saint? After sensing the aura on Ji Yufei's body, everyone was shocked to the extreme. He was only a great sovereign, but just now, he had collided head-on with Primordius Boy and knocked him down from the sky. Some of the old antiques knew the origins of the Primordial Chaos Boy. He was a ruthless character, the only super-old monster left in the Shongqing Temple. Roar! At this time, the Primordial Chaos Boy roared and rushed up from the ground. His murderous aura soared to the sky. Although he looked like a child of 11 or 12 years old, no one dared to look down on him. Damn you! The Primordial Chaos Boy was a lawless fellow. He attacked Ji Yufei as soon as he arrived. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert of the older generation. His actions were completely based on his own preferences. Boom! The primordial Chaos Boy's hands formed a chaotic dragon in front of him and then struck towards Ji Yufei. The chaotic dragon soared for thousands of miles and arrived in front of Ji Yufei in the blink of an eye. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded through the sky. This chaotic dragon seemed to have a life of its own as it actually let out a dragon's roar. This dragon's roar caused the sky and earth to tremble. Ji Yufei only felt his ears buzzing. In the next moment, he couldn't hear anything else. Musical assassination technique? Ji Yufei didn't retreat. Instead, he struck out with his primordial chaos fist. Countless Dao runes appeared on his fist, interweaving into a powerful force. Bang! The dragon's head was destroyed by Ji Yufei's fist. The dragon's body was also broken into 7 or 8 pieces. After that, it dissipated into the void and turned into chaotic chi. What? The primordial Chaos Boy was shocked. He couldn't believe his eyes. Is this guy really an almighty emperor? How can he have such powerful combat strength? The combat strength that Ji Yufei displayed had exceeded everyone's understanding. An almighty emperor could really fight against a half-saint. This kind of heaven-defying thing was happening right now. However, at this time, the old sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect and the patriarch of the Song clan had already arrived. Their powerful half-saint aura made Ji Yufei feel a great pressure. It was already heaven-defying for an almighty emperor to fight against a half-saint. It would be a miracle if an almighty emperor could fight against 3 half-saints alone. Even though Ji Yufei could fight against a half-saint, he wouldn't be able to take on 3 half-saints at the same time. Swish! He used the 8 Desolation Void Steps to break out of the encirclement of the 2 half-saints. The 8 Desolation Void Steps was the fastest in the world. Not even 2 half-saints could stop him. Let's go. Ji Yufei's body became one with heaven and earth. He pushed his speed to the limit. With a single step, he arrived in front of Ji Yuzhong and kept him in his inner world. After that, he rushed towards He Tian and used the power of heaven and earth to wrap around He Tian and fly towards the depths of the mountain. Trying to escape after killing my son? The old sect master of the Immortal Sword Sect was the first to chase after Ji Yufei. The child of Primeval Chaos, as well as the clan lord of the Song clan in the capital of Yang Haven, gave chase. After all, the disciple of the child of Primeval Chaos, the Daoist priest of the High Clarity Temple, and the younger brother of the clan lord of the Song clan, had both been killed by Erebus. There was no way the 3 half-saints would let He Tian go so easily. It didn't take long for the 3 half-saints to disappear into the horizon. Some of the old-timers didn't want to miss out on a battle of this level, so they followed suit. Some of them already knew that Ji Yufei and He Tian were the ruthless people who had fought against the mysterious inheritance in the Shamanland, so they began to worry about the 3 half-saints. Those 3 old fogies are really like ghosts that won't go away. Ji Yufei used his fastest speed to shake off the 3 half-saints who were chasing him. However, the 3 half-saints were not to be trifled with. They were actually able to keep up with Ji Yufei. The 3 half-saints seemed to have mastered some kind of secret technique. Although Ji Yufei was clearly able to shake them off, the 3 half-saints would immediately chase after him as soon as he stopped. At first, Ji Yufei thought that they had done something to him, so he released the heaven and earth energy to isolate his aura. However, the situation did not change even after he did that. As soon as he stopped, the 3 half-saints would immediately appear and chase after him. What's going on? It wasn't just Ji Yufei, even He Tian felt that it was extremely troublesome. The 3 half-saints kept chasing after them, and at this rate, they would catch up to them sooner or later. After running for 50,000 miles, Ji Yufei and He Tian still hadn't shaken off the 3 half-saints. Ji Yufei couldn't help but feel annoyed. It wasn't that he was afraid of them, but they really didn't know what was good for them. Chapter 1605. Ji Yufei couldn't help but feel a little angry after being chased by the 3 half-sages for 100,000 miles. Did these guys think that he was afraid of them? They were simply courting death. One should know that he had already killed more than 1 or 2 half-sages. As long as he took out the violet gold divine sword, Ji Yufei felt that he still had a chance to kill the 3 half-sages. Boss, why are you being so courteous with them? Why don't we just turn back and kill those 3 old farts? He Tian said with a murderous look. How about I leave this task to you? Kill 3 half-sages in one go. Your name, He Tian, will shake the entire soaring sky continent. Ji Yufei said impatiently. This, He Tian had an awkward expression and didn't say anything. What a joke. With his cultivation, going against a half-sage was absolutely courting death. Even if he didn't die, he would be half dead. He Tian would never do something that would put him at a disadvantage. At this moment, Ji Yufei and He Tian landed on a mountain peak. There were many mountains around them, and there were no signs of human activity. They could occasionally see the silhouettes of ferocious beasts in the forest. Just after they stopped for a while, a short figure appeared on the horizon, walking towards Ji Yufei and the others. That person was walking in the sky, and with every step he took, the shadow of a true dragon would appear under his feet. It was a child around 11 or 12 years old. However, his skinny body emitted a shocking aura that caused all living beings in the vicinity to tremble. Primeval child. Ji Yufei's eyes couldn't help but narrow when he saw that figure. Although this person had the appearance of a child, he was actually a super antique. The title of Primeval Child was a taboo 10,000 years ago. This person had a problem with his cultivation, causing his physique to forever be like that of a child. This was a lawless fellow who was also protective of his own people. All the rules of the cultivation world were useless against him. This half-sage acted according to his will. One had to admit that this Primeval child was indeed proud of his cultivation and strength. He didn't need to worry about anyone. Why aren't you running anymore? Boy of primordial chaos walked in the void. From the moment he appeared and took a few steps, he had already arrived near Ji Yufei and the others. From the sky, he looked down at Ji Yufei and He Tian on the mountain peak. The shadow of a dragon loomed in the sky. The aura released by this primordial chaos boy could affect the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. His blood energy was also incomparably vigorous. It was hard to imagine that a super old-timer would have such a powerful chi and blood. He was like the rising sun, and no one could ever imagine that he was an old-timer. Who said we escaped? Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Ji Yufei's voice was extremely calm. A divine sword flew out from his dantian and landed in his hand. It was a simple and unadorned long sword. A chilling aura emanated from the sword in Ji Yufei's hand. The temperature of the entire world dropped. Even primordial chaos boy felt a chill. His eyes flickered as he stared at the long sword in Ji Yufei's hand. It was an ancient sword, but it made him feel a great sense of danger. This wasn't an ordinary sword. It seemed to be even more frightening than a holy weapon. Even a holy weapon wouldn't be able to give him such a feeling before it was awakened. Could this be the legendary? His expression changed. If the long sword in Yi Futian's hand really was one of those legendary items, then he really wouldn't have any confidence. Swoosh. At this time, Ji Yufei had already rushed up from the mountain peak. He directly slashed at Primordial Chaos Boy's head with the divine sword in his hand. There was no shocking sword light, and there weren't even any fluctuations of sword energy. However, the moment Ji Yufei made his move, Primordial Chaos Boy was alarmed. Without a second thought, he left behind an afterimage on the spot and instantly retreated 5 kilometers away. A wave visible to the naked eye rushed out from the divine sword and directly crushed Primordial Chaos Boy's afterimage before falling down. Swoosh. The visible transparent ripple landed on the ground, and a bottomless crack silently appeared on the ground. It was as if the entire ground had been split in half by the sword. This, Primordial Chaos Boy no longer had any doubts. No holy weapon could have such power. There were no energy fluctuations at all, but the ground had already been split open. Swoosh. Without any hesitation, Primordial Chaos Boy stepped on the true dragon phantom and flew tens of thousands of meters away from Ji Yufei. He really couldn't afford to offend Ji Yufei since he had an extreme holy weapon in his hand. However, he had to take revenge for killing his disciple. Go. Primordial Chaos Boy was decisive. He knew that he couldn't do anything, so he immediately turned around and left. After a few more steps, this ruthless person disappeared at the end of the horizon. He left just like that. Ji Yufei was also very surprised to see this result. Could it be that this guy could see that the divine sword in his hand was an extreme holy weapon? This seemed to be the only reason why someone like Primordial Chaos Boy would turn around and leave without saying a word. Just as Primordial Chaos Boy left, another figure appeared in the distant sky in another direction. It was an existence in fluttering white robes. Divine phoenixes and true dragons circled around him. The head of the Song clan had arrived. However, before Ji Yufei could say anything, the head of the Song clan suddenly stared at the divine sword in Ji Yufei's hand, then turned around and left without a word. The last to appear was the old sect master of the Immortal Sword sect. His son had been killed by He Tian, and the vengeance for his son was irreconcilable. He swore to crush He Tian's bones and scatter his ashes. As for Ji Yufei, the moment the old sect master of the Immortal Sword sect appeared, he had already swung his sword. A transparent ripple that was visible to the naked eye fell on the old sect master's head. What? In that instant, the old sect master felt all the pores on his body shrink and his hair stand on end. An extremely dangerous aura had already enveloped him. Roar! The old sect master roared and directly shattered the void, escaping into it. A few drops of crystal-clear blood dripped down from the void. Although the old sect master of the Immortal Sword sect managed to escape in time, he was still injured by the strand of sword energy that the purple-gold divine sword emitted. Although he wasn't directly cut by the divine sword, it was enough to heavily injure him. No one could have imagined that 3 half-sages would pursue Ji Yufei like this. If news of this got out, it would be enough to shake the entire Tenglong continent. In particular, the birth of an extreme holy weapon would definitely make all cultivators jealous. Let's go back to the eastern region. After scaring off the 3 half-sages, Ji Yufei threw Ji Yuzhong out of his inner world and rushed to the nearest transportation formation with He Tian. Chapter 1606. The Eastern Domain, 100 years ago, was once the world of the Taishen sect, but 100 years later, there was no more Taishen sect in this world. The once powerful Taishen sect had completely disappeared. The place where the Taishen sect was located had collapsed and was replaced by a terrifying demonic den. With the demonic den as the center, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles had turned into a demonic domain. From time to time, terrifying demonic shadows would appear there. It was a dangerous place that had appeared in the Eastern Domain in the past 100 years, and no one dared to enter it easily. The Heavenly Market and the Demonic Den were the 2 most dangerous places in the Eastern Domain. A great era had appeared in the human world, and even a dangerous place could not stop the footsteps of the strong. Emperor Donghuang had once entered the Demonic Den and killed a great demon. The Heavenly Market had also become a trial ground for some super forces. There were many strong people in the Eastern Domain. In addition to Emperor Donghuang, the Zhao family of the Desolate Antiquity had also produced an extraordinary figure. This person was enough to compete with Emperor Donghuang. There was a place in the Eastern Domain that had been abandoned for nearly 100 years. It was once the location of a dragon vein in the mountains, and it was called the Dragon Valley. 100 years ago, the Taishen mountain collapsed, and the Eastern Domain changed greatly. An ancient demon came out from the depths of the earth. In that battle, the entire Eastern Domain was affected, and the Taishen sect was almost destroyed. The Taishen sect, whose vitality was greatly damaged, once moved to the Dragon Valley and temporarily settled down. However, at that time, the conflict between Ji Yufei and Dongfang Chen was already clear. He killed Dongfang Chen, the most outstanding genius of the Dongfang family. As a result, Dongfang Wudi was provoked. However, even Dongfang Wudi was burned to death by Ji Yufei's divine fire. This hatred was getting bigger and bigger, to the point where it was impossible to resolve. On this day, 3 people appeared in the Dragon Valley. This place is still the same as 100 years ago. When Ji Yufei saw the destruction in the valley, he couldn't help but feel emotional. The valley was full of traces of a great battle. Although these traces had been there for 100 years, they were still clearly visible. Some places were already covered with weeds, and some places were even completely covered by vines. Coming back to the old place, Ji Yufei remembered the scene of his childhood on the Taishen Mountain. The Taishen Mountain collapsed, and even the tomb of his master, Wn Xian Cheng, was destroyed. There was nothing left in the entire Supreme Mystery Sect. Back then, my cultivation base was not high enough. Otherwise, those fellows would not have been able to break the killing array that I set up. He Tian's face turned grim. I'm going to visit the Dongfang family and the Zhao family. Ji Yufei's eyes flickered with a cold light, and a murderous aura spread from his body, causing He Tian and Ji Yuzhong's hearts to palpitate. This was a star of calamity. He was able to fight against a half-saint with his cultivation of a great emperor. It was definitely not a good thing for anyone to offend him. It seemed like a storm of blood was about to arise in the Eastern Domain. Now that Ji Yufei had gone to the Dongfang family and the primordial Zhao family, a great battle was inevitable. He Tian could not help but feel his blood boiling as he thought of this. Back then, the Dongfang family and the primordial Zhao family had joined forces to break the killing array that He Tian had set up and entered the Dragon Valley. The disciples of the Supreme Mystery Sect were either dead or missing. Only those who had participated in this matter knew what had happened to the disciples of the Supreme Mystery Sect in the end. Master, what should we do next? Ji Yuzhong asked. Ji Yufei thought for a moment, then said, it's time to meet an old friend. He took one last look at the Dragon Valley, then turned around and walked out without looking back. The Supreme Mystery Sect had become a thing of the past, and the Dragon Valley had become ruins. What he needed to do now was to take revenge. During the dark turmoil, the Supreme Mystery Sect had not been destroyed. However, from the moment the primordial Zhao family and the Dongfang family joined forces to break into the Dragon Valley, the Supreme Mystery Sect was destroyed. The Eastern Domain had become the world of the primordial Zhao family, the Dongfang family, and the Devil's Den. However, the return of Ji Yufei would break this situation and add countless variables. The Eastern Domain was about to change, and it was time for the forces of the Eastern Domain to be reshuffled. The Eastern Emperor City was an ancient city named after the Eastern Emperor. In the Eastern Domain, there had only been one invincible Eastern Emperor, and that was the ancestor of the Dongfang family. This ancestor of the Dongfang family had long disappeared from the human world, just like those saints. However, for countless years, no one dared to underestimate the Dongfang family, because this was a family that had produced an invincible emperor and had a background that made people fear. In the Eastern Emperor City, the city lord was appointed by the Dongfang family. Even the Immortal Dynasty could not interfere in the affairs of the Eastern Emperor City. In the Eastern Domain, the Dongfang family was enough to contend with the Immortal Dynasty. Master, I have already found out that the city lord of the Eastern Emperor City is an elder of the Dongfang family. In a restaurant in the East Royal City, Ji Yuzhong was reporting to Ji Yufei. Ji Yuzhong had already gone out for a round and had brought back a lot of information. The city lord of the Eastern Emperor City was called Dongfang Yuan. He had only come to the Eastern Emperor City 10 years ago and became the city lord of the Eastern Emperor City. The Eastern Emperor City was the most important place of the Dongfang family in the outside world. According to legend, this ancient city was personally built by the ancestor of the Dongfang family, the Eastern Emperor. From Ji Yuzhong's words, Ji Yufei and He Tian knew that this Dongfang Yuan was actually a half-step saint. 100 years ago, no one had heard of the existence of a half-step saint in the Dongfang family. Could it be that he was an old antique who had only woken up from his slumber in the present world? Some old antiques would choose to seal themselves in order to catch up with the great era of the human world. In the Dongfang family, there should be such a foundation. Some people sealed themselves until the present world. Forces that had been passed down for countless years all had unknown foundations. Once these foundations appeared in the world, they would intimidate everyone and make people fear them. Then let's collect some interest first. Ji Yufei had already made up his mind to kill. So what if he was a half-step saint? Since the Dongfang family was one of the main culprits of the destruction of the Supreme Mystery Sect, he would never be polite to the people of the Dongfang family. I want them to regret messing with us. He Tian said fiercely. You guys go out of the city first. Ji Fei said to He Tian and Ji Zhong. Do you want me to find a place outside the city and set up a killing formation? He Tian said. One must know that they were going to deal with a half-step saint, and they did not have the confidence to do so. If a half-step saint wanted to escape, even Ji Fei could not stop him. No, I will personally meet this Dongfang Yuan. Ji Fei said, then stood up and walked out directly. Then, he walked along the street towards the city lord's mansion at the end of the street step by step. He Tian walked out of the restaurant with Ji Zhong, then directly soared into the sky and flew out of the East Emperor City. The residents of the East Emperor City seemed to be used to these cultivators who could ride the clouds. He Tian and Ji Zhong soared into the sky and did not cause much commotion. Ji Fei, on the other hand, went directly to the city lord's mansion and stood in front of the gate. The aura on his body suddenly released, and a shocking aura immediately soared into the sky. The cultivators in the city suddenly turned pale with fright. A book recommended by a friend. Friends who like it can go and read it. Chapter 1607. Someone actually dares to challenge the city lord. Who's so daring? His courting death. The city lord is a half-saint. As Ji Fei released his shocking aura, the entire East Royal City was in an uproar. All the cultivators were shocked. This aura had suddenly erupted from the front of the city lord's mansion. Someone was actually challenging the city lord of the East Royal City. This was no small matter. It had been a long time since something like this had happened in the East Royal City. Especially when a great era was about to begin, no one dared to underestimate the Dongfang family of the Eastern Domain even if there were peerless figures constantly rising up. The Eastern Domain was the world of the three great powers. Even the immortal dynasty of the Central Plains could not interfere. At this moment, all the experts in the East Royal City were alarmed. Divine lights continuously rushed out from all over the city. Some experts rushed up into the sky and looked towards the city lord's mansion. Everyone wanted to know what was going on as soon as possible. Who is that person? Why have I never seen him before? He's so young. I'm afraid he's only been cultivating for a few hundred years. This kid actually dares to challenge Dongfang Yuan? Is he tired of living? When the experts saw Ji Fei in front of the city lord's mansion, they were all shocked because Ji Fei was just too powerful. In the world of cultivation, the appearance of a cultivator didn't mean anything. For example, the Primeval child looked like an 11 or 12-year-old child. However, in the world of cultivation, it was still possible to sense a person's cultivation time. This was because one's qi and blood and primordial spirit could explain everything. Ji Fei's qi and blood were incomparably vigorous, like the rising sun. Such a person was definitely not one of those old antiques who had cultivated for countless years. This kid is just an almighty emperor. What gives him the right to challenge Dongfang Yuan? High up in the sky, people were talking. Very soon, someone sensed Ji Fei's cultivation. An almighty emperor was actually challenging a half-saint. Was he crazy? No one was optimistic about Ji Fei because an almighty emperor and a half-saint were on completely different levels. In the eyes of these people, the two were simply incomparable. Who dares to cause trouble in the East Imperial Kingdom? An enraged roar rang out from the city lord's mansion. After that, a young man in purple robes walked out from the city lord's mansion. This was a young expert similar to Ji Fei. This is Dongfang Yuan's son, Dongfang Xian. Didn't he go to the heaven market? Why are you here? Someone recognized the violet-robed young man. It was Dongfang Yuan's son. Dongfang Yuan was a half-saint, so his son was naturally not weak. Dongfang Xian was second only to Dong Huang in the younger generation of the Dongfang family. Many people had seen his silhouette in the sky market. Some people had even seen him enter the depths of the sky market. However, no one had expected him to appear here. The sky market had already become a training ground for the three major forces in the eastern region. Demons also appeared in the sky market. It was extremely dangerous. If the cultivators who entered the sky market were not careful, they wouldn't even know how they died. Who are you? Ji Yufei stood outside the gates of the City Lord's mansion and stared coldly at the young expert who had just walked out of the City Lord's mansion. There was a layer of divine light circulating around this person's body. His cultivation base was extremely powerful. You don't have the right to know who I am. If you don't want to die, get lost. Dongfang Xian was extremely domineering. A powerful killing intent emanated from his body. His eyes flickered with a cold electric light as he blinked. Almighty Emperor? You're not strong enough. Call your elders out to talk to me. Dongfang Xian was extremely arrogant, but Ji Yufei didn't care about him at all. He was already invincible among his peers, so such an opponent wouldn't pose a threat to him at all. What an arrogant fool. Dongfang Xian was so angry that he laughed. He took a step forward and a shocking aura surged towards Ji Yufei. The entire sky and the void shook. Bam! When Dongfang Xian took a second step, the entire sky and earth trembled along with his footsteps. Dongfang Xian's long hair danced in the wind. At this moment, his aura instantly increased tenfold. This was the power of the sky and earth that was directed towards Ji Yufei to suppress him. Oh! Ji Yufei frowned. Although this guy was extremely arrogant, his cultivation base was also extraordinary. He was definitely an expert among the almighty emperors. You're courting death. Ji Yufei didn't say much to this guy. He directly pushed his palm forward. Many divine patterns of the great path appeared on his palm. The surging power of the sky and earth was immediately dispersed by this palm. What? Dongfang Xian was shocked. He had never expected Ji Yufei to be so ferocious. He was actually able to disperse the power of the sky and earth that he had mobilized with a single palm. Moreover, what shocked him even more was that his opponent's palm didn't stop after dispersing his power of the sky and earth. Instead, it continued to push towards him. Bam! Without any suspense, under Dongfang Xian's terrified gaze, he was sent flying by a palm. Boom! He crashed into the City Lord's palace. How dare you? Who dares to behave atrociously here? A furious roar rang out from the City Lord's palace. Then, a group of cultivators clad in relic armor rushed out from the palace. The person in the lead was clad in relic armor and held a bronze spear in his hand. A murderous aura emanated from his body. It was obvious at a glance that this leader was a god of death who had walked out from a pile of corpses. How many people must he have killed for this god of death to gather such a murderous aura? Immortal soldiers and generals of the Dongfang clan? Ji Yufei wasn't too surprised when he saw this group of soldiers. One should know that with the Dongfang clan's influence in the Eastern Domain, they could definitely train an immortal soldier and a divine general. He didn't say anything and directly charged forward. Bam! With a single punch, the leader of the divine generals was crushed by Ji Yufei's fist. He turned into a bloody mist and even his Yuanshan couldn't escape. What? Up in the sky, everyone who witnessed this scene was dumbfounded. This young cultivator's battle prowess was incredible. He killed the second strongest cultivator of the City Lord's palace with a single punch. The cultivators of the Eastern Royal City weren't unfamiliar with the general. One should know that the general's cultivation was even higher than Dongfang Xian's. He had reached the peak of the ninth heaven and was the right-hand man of the City Lord of the Eastern Royal City. Killing a peak ninth heaven expert with a single punch, Ji Yufei's strength shocked everyone. Behind the gate of the City Lord's palace, Dongfang Xian, who was sent flying back by Ji Yufei, said with a trembling voice. Who was this person? How dare he commit such a crime here? You what? Do you think you're the Eastern Emperor? Even if the Eastern Emperor is here, I'll kill him with a single punch. Ji Yufei strode forward. The group of soldiers charged towards him with spears in their hands. Kill. The dozen or so soldiers roared at the same time, their voices shaking the sky. They raised the spears in their hands and stabbed at Ji Yufei, each spear emitting a dazzling divine light. These were all immortals. Among the dozen or so soldiers, there were even some at the ninth heaven, just one step away from becoming an immortal emperor. However, in Ji Yufei's eyes, these people were no different from ants. Boom! He threw a punch and the spears in the hands of the soldiers were all broken. The soldiers were sent flying, each of them coughing up blood. They were dead before they even hit the ground. Ji Yufei didn't make a move, but once he did, it was an extremely fierce attack. He killed a group of immortal soldiers with a single move. This kind of battle prowess, this kind of method, made people's hearts palpitate. The enmity between the two sides couldn't be resolved. In that case, Ji Yufei could only fight the Dongfang family to the end. Weren't you very arrogant? Now you're not. Ji Yufei strode into the city lord's mansion. Dongfang Xian was already scared out of his wits. He constantly retreated, his arrogance completely replaced by terror. You can't. Dongfang Xian said in a trembling voice. Can't what? Can't kill you? Ji Yufei smiled. He walked toward Dongfang Xian step by step, his killing intent faintly discernible. He wouldn't let this disciple of the Dongfang family go. If he allowed such a young expert to grow up, he would definitely become a formidable opponent. Ji Yufei didn't want to make another enemy in the future. Dongfang Xian was originally a young expert of the Dongfang family, second only to Emperor Donghuang. He thought highly of himself and was usually very arrogant. He didn't even care about people of the older generation. However, the current Dongfang Xian was no longer the old Dongfang Xian. He had suffered a great shock, and his Dao heart was already unstable. Even if Ji Yufei didn't kill him, it would be difficult for him to become a supreme expert. It didn't matter if he killed or not. At this moment, a cold snort rang out from the depths of the city lord's mansion. Then, a strand of saintly might appeared in the sky. Everyone was stunned by this saintly might. Is he finally coming out? Ji Yufei muttered to himself. He walked past Dongfang Xian. Haha, you're dead. My father is here, and you'll die without a burial. Let's see how long you can be arrogant for. Dongfang Xian suddenly laughed maniacally. Hearing this, Ji Yufei's body paused for a moment. He didn't even turn his head back. He pointed out with his right hand, and a beam of divine light shot out from his finger, directly piercing through Dongfang Xian's head. I didn't want to kill you at first, but you're courting death. Don't blame anyone else. Ji Yufei continued forward. The smile on Dongfang Xian's face froze. A bloody hole appeared on his forehead, and red and white matter seeped out. Ji Yufei's finger had directly pierced through his Niwen palace and dispersed his Yuan spirit. Pater. Dongfang Xian's corpse fell to the cold ground. The number 2 figure of the younger generation of the Dongfang clan, who was slightly inferior to the Eastern Emperor, had fallen just like that. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. This guy actually killed the son of the city lord. This was equivalent to piercing through the sky. The city lord of the Eastern Imperial City would definitely go crazy. Roar. You deserve to die. Just as Ji Yufei killed Dongfang Xian, an earth-shattering roar sounded from the depths of the city lord's mansion. Then, a figure emitting a terrifying aura and ripples rushed out from the depths of the city lord's mansion. This is the last chapter tonight. It will erupt tomorrow. Chapter 1608. Today, the Eastern Royal Kingdom was destined to not be peaceful. In front of the city lord's estate, Ji Yufei killed the second most powerful figure in the Eastern Royal Kingdom all by himself. He even killed the son of the city lord. To the cultivators in the Eastern Royal Kingdom, this was tantamount to piercing through the sky. You deserve to die. A furious roar rang out from the depths of the city lord's estate. A peerless silhouette rushed out. As this silhouette appeared, the entire sky darkened. Monstrous killing intent caused even the sky to lose its color. Boom. That person did not waste any words. He directly slammed a palm towards Ji Yufei. Boundless immortal energy condensed into a gigantic palm that radiated with boundless divine light. Like the hand of the heavens, it slammed down towards Ji Yufei. It's the supreme art of the Dongfang clan, the hand of the firmament. High up in the sky, the cultivators who saw this scene exclaimed. The gigantic palm enveloped the entire sky. Countless Dao runes appeared, interweaving with each other to form an astonishing force. Rumble, the gigantic palm pressed down, causing the space below it to tremble. Then, a series of pitch-black spatial cracks appeared, extending into the distance. That person swore to kill Ji Yufei. His attacks were merciless. The moment the hand of the firmament appeared, it sealed off all paths of retreat for Ji Fei. He did not even have the chance to dodge. Heaven-encompassing palm. Ji Fei roared. His long hair danced in the wind. He had no intention of retreating. Instead, he directly extended his right palm and slammed upwards. A resplendent golden palm rushed out from his right hand, welcoming the descending hand of the firmament. Bang! After a muffled sound, the heaven-encompassing hand and the hand of the firmament clashed. The entire space shook violently. Then, a terrifying destructive force exploded between the two. The void was being annihilated. Pitch-black spatial cracks extended for tens of millions of feet. The mighty energy fluctuations that spread out between the two of them even dispersed the clouds in the sky. Boom! Ji Fei crushed the hard green brick floor, and Ji Fei's entire body sunk into the ground. The powerful force from his hand caused him to suffer a great impact. As for the peerless figure that rushed out from the depths of the City Lord's mansion, he was also sent flying high into the sky by Ji Fei's palm force. What, heaven-defying! How is this possible? High up in the sky, the cultivators who had already dodged away were all dumbfounded when they saw this. The young cultivator was actually able to take a blow from that person head-on and not die. This was a miracle. It was already a miracle that almighty emperors and half-saints didn't die in a head-on clash. Who are you? Dongfang Yuan couldn't help but become serious. Although the other party was a great emperor, he could sense the powerful power within the other party's body that made even his heart palpitate. Ji Fei. Ji Fei didn't intend to hide his identity. After all, he and He Tian made such a big noise in the Sorcerer's Land and fought with the 3 half-saints in Yang City. Perhaps some people with ulterior motives already knew his origin and identity. What? You are Ji Fei. Dongfang Yuan's expression changed. His eyes flickered as he stared at Ji Fei. His expression kept changing. He was not unfamiliar with the name Ji Fei. It was a name that had disappeared from the human realm. It was not a secret that Ji Fei and He Tian had entered the heaven realm. The experts of the Dongfang family had also participated in the turmoil of the sky market. You didn't expect this, did you? Ji Fei walked out of the big pit in the ground step by step. He was very calm. So what if he was a half-saint? With his current cultivation, he could compete with a half-saint. Didn't you already enter the heaven realm? Dongfang Yuan stood in the sky. He was very surprised. When the turmoil of the sky market happened, the Great Era had not yet arrived. He was still in a deep sleep. When the Sky Tower appeared, there were peerless figures who fought for it. Then, the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu took it away. This was the biggest event in the past 100 years. At that time, the Sky Tower accidentally opened the heavenly road to the heaven realm. Many people entered the heaven realm, including Ji Fei and the others. HMPH, can't I come back? Ji Fei had already walked out of the big pit. He looked up, and his eyes flickered like a lion staring at its prey. I can actually come back. Could there be some secret passage between the heaven realm and the human realm? Dongfang Yuan couldn't help but become excited when he thought of this. One of the reasons he slept in the present world was to enter the heaven realm. He couldn't let this person go. Moreover, this person had a great hatred for the Dongfang family. He had just killed his son. No matter what the reason was, this person had to die in the end. Swish. Dongfang Yuan made his move. 9 beams of divine light suddenly rushed out from his body. Each of the 9 beams of divine light was wrapped around a divine weapon. A saint's aura spread out from Dongfang Yuan's body. This aura made all living beings tremble because saints could look down on the world. Dongfang Yuan was not a saint, but he was already a half-saint. He had the aura of a saint. Countless Dao patterns appeared on the 9 divine weapons. They turned into 9 divine rainbows and slashed at Ji Fei below. The terrifying power of the immortal Dao caused the entire City Lord's mansion to tremble. A self-refined half-saint divine weapon. Ji Fei could tell at a glance that these 9 divine weapons were not divine weapons refined by ancient sages, but divine weapons refined by Dongfang Yuan himself. Bang! Ji Fei pushed off the ground with both feet and shot up into the sky like an arrow. He directly rushed into the 9 divine weapons and kept clashing with them with his fists. Clang. The clanging sound was endless. Ji Fei actually used his flesh and blood to fight against the divine weapons. His action shocked everyone to the extreme. Kill. Ji Fei was extremely powerful. He directly knocked away the 9 divine weapons and attacked Dongfang Yuan. His battle intent was like that of a supreme war god from ancient times. Such a powerful physical strength. Could it be the person who defeated the chaotic Tao body? Many people had witnessed Ji Fei fighting against the chaotic Tao body in the Sorcerer's Land. Although the East region was far away from the Sorcerer's Land, the cultivators in the East region had heard about it. Very good. It's you who defeated the chaotic Tao body in the Sorcerer's Land. The 9 divine weapons flew back to Dongfang Yuan. Each of them glowed with dazzling divine light and surged with the terrifying power of the immortal Tao. The 9 divine rainbows intertwined in front of Dongfang Yuan and finally stopped Ji Fei. The Tao patterns intertwined and the power of the immortal Tao was so powerful that even Ji Fei could not break through the barrier in a short time. After all, his opponent was a half-saint. It's only been 100 years, but your cultivation has become so powerful. Dongfang Yuan's voice was trembling. He was not afraid, but excited. Was the legendary heaven realm really a paradise for cultivation? One could become a mighty emperor after 100 years of cultivation. Chapter 1609. Only when the great era of the human realm came, such a heaven-defying figure would appear. In the great era, anything could happen. Could it be that the heaven realm also ushered in the great era? Dongfang Yuan was shocked. He knew a lot about the enemy of the Dongfang family. 100 years ago, this man named Ji Fei was not even an immortal. But 100 years later, Ji Fei, who returned from the heaven realm, was already a great emperor. It should be known that this person cultivated the ancient martial arts, which was much more difficult than the ordinary cultivation system. Although Dongfang Yuan was surprised, he did not dare to underestimate Ji Fei. The 9 great magic weapons were flying, and each of them turned into a bright divine rainbow, exuding the terrible power of a half-saint. Swish! A divine rainbow rushed past Ji Fei, and wherever it passed, the void was silently annihilated, leaving a dark space crack. Half-saint, even in the great era of the human realm, was also a supreme figure. The East Royal Palace had a special position in the East Royal Palace. The Dongfang family also attached great importance to the East Royal Palace and did not hesitate to send a half-saint to guard it. In this great era, even great experts would find it difficult to deter some people. Only half-saints could deter others. Clang. Ji Fei's fists constantly collided with the 9 great magic weapons. The magic weapons that were hit by his fists made a sound of metal shaking, and on his fists, there were constantly Tao patterns appearing. Merging the body with the Tao, you are refining your body as a holy weapon. Dongfang Yuan saw something and was extremely shocked. No wonder the ancient warriors were so powerful, and there was even an invincible, indestructible martial body. It seemed that this was the reason. People of the immortal path would not refine their body as a holy weapon, because they had divine weapons to protect themselves. Dongfang Yuan's 9 great magic weapons were divine weapons to protect himself. At this time, divine patterns of the Great Way began to appear on Ji Fei's body. He was like a human magic weapon, fighting endlessly under the siege of the 9 great magic weapons. This scene was sufficient to shock the world. Because no one dared to use their bodies to go against a weapon refined by a half-saint, and even the most extraordinary figure in the mortal dimension was unable to do so. Who is that person? Is it really that person? The chaotic Daoist body and the human martial body have appeared in the land of Sorcerer. These 2 bodies have been recognized as pitilessly powerful in ancient times. This person doesn't have chaotic aura on him, so he must be the human martial body. In the East Royal City, the well-informed cultivators had already guessed Ji Fei's background. Could it be that the human race martial body from 100 years ago has appeared again? Some people thought of many things. 100 years ago, there was a genius in the Taishen sect who cultivated ancient martial arts. He was invincible among the younger generation in the southern wasteland. Even the most outstanding azure dragon among the 100 races of the southern wasteland was no match for a human with a martial body. However, only 100 years had passed. Could it be that a human with a martial body had already become a mighty emperor? In the eyes of cultivators, 100 years was just a short period of time. There were some old monsters who would go into seclusion for hundreds of years or even over 1,000 years. There were some old monsters who sealed themselves and slept for countless years, becoming great beings within 100 years. This wasn't impossible, there were such geniuses in the mortal world. However, for a martial artist to become an almighty emperor in 100 years was too heaven-defying. Because all cultivators knew that for ordinary cultivators, ancient martial arts was a path of no return. This path was too difficult. Some people could not achieve great success in their entire lives. It was because ancient martial arts were too difficult to cultivate that gradually, no one was willing to take this path. Just when everyone was shocked, the battle between Ji Yufei and Dongfang Yuan changed again. Ji Yufei's power was getting stronger and stronger. His Taoist patterns were densely packed. When he punched, the world shook. Dongfang Yuan's 9 divine weapons were gradually unable to resist Ji Yufei's attack. Boom! In the end, Ji Yufei sent the 9 divine weapons flying with a single punch. He then used the 8 Desolation Void steps and took a step forward, directly arriving in front of Dongfang Yuan. Damn it! Dongfang Yuan was shocked. He knew very well that he couldn't let a cultivator get close to him. In a battle, it meant death. Bang! Without any hesitation, Ji Yufei's essence, qi, and spirit climbed to the peak in an instant. He then punched with his strongest power, a mass of chaotic energy emerging from his fist. Although it was just a punch, Dongfang Yuan felt the aura of death. Stars shift. Dongfang Yuan was greatly alarmed. Without a second thought, he unleashed his immortal Dao divine art. With a furious roar, a vast force of immortal Dao surged out from his body. With him as the center, the space around him suddenly distorted. There seemed to be stars floating around Dongfang Yuan. The world was reversing. What? Ji Yufei only felt a force pulling his fist away, which shocked him. A half-step saint was indeed a half-step saint. Even his strongest punch was almost pulled away by this force. However, all abilities and techniques were useless in the face of absolute power. Boom! Ji Yufei's fist vibrated. An even more powerful force surged out of his fist. Even the force that could move stars couldn't shake his fist. His fist passed through the chaotic void and landed on Dongfang Yuan. Just as Ji Yufei's fist landed on Dongfang Yuan, countless Dao runes surged out of his body. His clothes turned into ashes, revealing a divine armor underneath. Countless Dao runes appeared on the divine armor, dissipating most of the power of Ji Yufei's punch. Roar! With a furious roar, Ji Yufei still sent Dongfang Yuan flying thousands of meters away. It was so powerful that it made people's hearts palpitate. Such battle prowess was enough to intimidate everyone present. Dongfang Yuan stabilized his body, and a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He was drenched in cold sweat. If he had not worn a piece of holy armor under his clothes, his body would have been blown apart by that punch. This person is only a great emperor now, but he can already fight against a half-step saint. What will happen if he becomes a half-step saint? Dongfang Yuan's killing intent was unprecedentedly strong. Ji Yufei couldn't be left alive. Even if he had to use his trump card, he had to kill him. Otherwise, a terrifying enemy would appear in the Dongfang clan. He's also a coward. Ji Yufei couldn't help but feel disdain when he saw Dongfang Yuan wearing a divine armor under his clothes. He knew the power of his punch. It could even penetrate a divine armor refined by a half-step saint. Only a true divine tool could dissipate the power of his punch. Chapter 16:10. How dare you kill my son? You're dead. Dongfang Yuan wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, then stared at Ji Yufei with a frightening look in his eyes. A powerful wave of immortal power burst out from his body. Net in order to avenge his son's death, and to eradicate a great enemy of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Yuan could not let Ji Yufei go. Only one of them could survive. Ji Yufei and the Dongfang family had a great enmity, so he was going to kill an important figure of the Dongfang family to establish his power. This was a situation that would not end until one of them died. Die. Without any hesitation, Ji Yufei let out a roar and executed the 8 Desolation Void steps, causing his figure to vanish. When he reappeared, he was already above Dongfang Yuan. Bang! He stomped down on Dongfang Yuan's head, and a terrifying sound of wind and thunder rang out under his feet. A powerful destructive force emerged under his feet. This stomp seemed to trample the whole world under his feet. Dongfang Yuan was both shocked and infuriated. Ji Yufei's speed was so fast that even he could barely keep up. A terrifying power descended from the top of his head, making him feel a great sense of danger. Carefree beyond the heavens, Dongfang Yuan used a great immortal technique, and countless trigrams rushed out from his body. He walked in the void, and with every step he took, trigrams emerged under his feet, turning the universe upside down. The void distorted under the trigrams, and Dongfang Yuan seemed to pass through the cracks in the void, rushing out from under Ji Yufei's feet like a flying immortal above the 9 heavens. This great technique, which condensed one's own immortal power into trigrams, was a supreme great technique created by an earth-shattering figure in ancient times. There were some inheritances of this technique in the Taishan sect, which were obtained by Li Lingfeng, the eldest senior brother of the Taishan sect. However, the inheritance that Li Lingfeng obtained was only a superficial one, and could not be compared to the inheritance that Dongfang Yuan obtained. 8 trigrams, appear. Dongfang Yuan circulated his half-holy immortal power with all his might, and his hands danced in front of him. 8 types of trigrams appeared in the air, condensing without dissipating. Rumble, the sky changed color, and the 8 trigrams appeared. All the spiritual energy in the world was attracted by the trigrams, and a terrifying power rippled out from the 8 trigrams. The 8 trigrams were crazily devouring the spiritual chi of heaven and earth from all directions. The region around the East Royal City suddenly changed color, and the sun and moon dimmed. Everyone was shocked. Good heavens! Ji Yufei was also secretly startled. He had never imagined that such an ancient inheritance would appear in the hands of a great enemy today. The Dongfang family was incredible to actually obtain such an ancient inheritance. It seems that the Dongfang family is not as simple as it seems on the surface. Ji Yufei did not show the slightest trace of fear. He directly struck out with the yin-yang reincarnation fist. This was a martial arts combat skill that he created on the basis of the 5 elements fist. Bam! When he punched out, the ferocious power directly shook the 8 trigrams, causing Dongfang Yuan to be shocked to the extreme. This guy was simply too ferocious. Ji Yufei's fists were like the 2 extremes of the moon and the sun. The power of yin and yang interweaved, and yin-yang divine diagrams constantly appeared between his fists. The fist force and the divine diagrams constantly collided with the 8 trigrams, and the void was constantly destroyed. Everyone who saw this scene was incomparably shocked. A terrifying power kept spreading out in every direction, forcing the cultivators who were watching the battle to retreat further away. If they were to be affected by the shockwaves, they would be in for a terrible time. Your master's battle strength is world-shaking. It seems that there are very few people in the human world who can defeat him. 2 people stood high up in the sky. One of them was a dashing young master with a mischievous smile on his face and a divine fire fan in his hand. The other was a fat middle-aged man. These 2 people were He Tian and Ji Yuzhong. They were closely watching the battle in front of them. They were not worried about Ji Yufei. It should be known that Ji Yufei was born to be a warrior. Unless a sage-to-be attacked, a sage-to-be could not threaten Ji Yufei's life. With the advent of the human world, everything is full of variables. Ji Yuzhong said with emotion. In the past 100 years, the human world had changed greatly. The way of heaven was no longer unfathomable. Many people took advantage of this time to break through the bottleneck of their cultivation. Ji Yuzhong had heard that a peerless figure appeared in the 100 tribes of the southern wilderness. This peerless figure became a sage-to-be within 100 years, which shook the entire cultivation world of the Tinglong continent. Even Jiyu Zhong had to admire such a peerless figure. It seems that a supreme master will appear in this world. He Tian seemed to have a premonition. Every time a great era came, someone would obtain a great opportunity and become the strongest in the world. Every cultivator who embarked on the path of cultivation wanted to become a supreme master. He Tian was no exception. In this great era, he also wanted to become a supreme master. Becoming a supreme master? I'm afraid my master also has this opportunity. In Jiyu Zhong's opinion, his master, Jiyu Fei, was the most outstanding one. Even the peerless genius of the southern wilderness might not be a match for his master. Rumble. At this time, a great destruction took place in the sky above the East Royal Palace. The entire void was collapsing, and pitch-black spatial cracks spread in all directions. It was like black lightning. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly dodged. Many people didn't manage to dodge in time and were torn apart by the ruptured void. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. The 8 trigrams fiercely collided with the yin and yang samsara, turning the void into chaos. Jiyu Fei and Dongfang Yuan fought in the chaotic void. This battle shook the surrounding area of the East Royal Palace. Soon, the news spread and shook the entire eastern domain. Soon, some powerful figures appeared in the vicinity of the East Royal Palace. It's really that person. This was the territory of the Dongfang family. Some of the experts of the Dongfang family recognized Jiyu Fei, but they didn't take action. This was a battle between half-step saints. Even powerful experts couldn't intervene. Although the Dongfang family had an unimaginable foundation, they didn't have many half-step saints. Dongfang Yuan's cultivation represented the strongest power of the Dongfang family. The head of the Dongfang family was only a few small realms stronger than Dongfang Yuan. The people of the Zhao family of the ancient wilderness had also arrived. They also had a great enmity with Jiyu Fei. In the past, the Zhao family's Heaven-breaker Shen King had died in the hands of Jiyu Fei. However, when the people of the Dongfang family and the Zhao family saw that Jiyu Fei was so powerful, they were all dumbfounded. It was hard to imagine that in just 100 years, Jiyu Fei had grown to the point where he could compete with half-step saints. The Zhao family of the ancient wilderness was very clear about how terrifying a martial artist could be when he grew up. He would become a great enemy. Today, it's midnight. We'll continue tomorrow. Recommend a book to a friend. Those who like it can go and read it. Chapter 1611. Boom. Jiyu Fei battled with Dongfang Yuan until the void shattered. The two experts directly entered the shattered void and fought until their eyes turned red. Roar. Jiyu Fei roared. The entire shattered void trembled. He used the primal chaos fist. His 2 fists were like 2 balls of primal chaos divine light, shaking the heaven and earth. Everything touched by Jiyu Fei's fists was destroyed. The 5 elements turned into yin and yang evolved into primal chaos. Jiyu Fei's martial path true force was constantly transforming. Under the state of primal chaos, his martial path true force was extremely violent. The 8 trigrams were constantly being blasted away. However, Dongfang Yuan seemed to have really obtained that ancient inheritance, and it was a complete inheritance. Rumble. The 8 trigrams circled around Dongfang Yuan, emitting a dazzling divine light. It drew upon the 8 powers of heaven and earth. Wind, fire, thunder, rain, snow, frost, and the essence of the earth. The 8 powers seemed to be transforming the heaven and earth in the shattered void. This ancient inheritance was incomparably powerful. The trigrams could defy the heavens. 8 trigrams suppress 10 directions. Universe refinement, I will refine you into ashes. Dongfang Yuan used his killer move. The 8 trigrams flew up and sealed Jiyu Fei inside. The 8 powers intertwined and actually transformed into the 5 elements, which then evolved into yin and yang. This 8 trigrams formation was too terrifying. Its power was enough to refine the heaven and earth. The yin and yang intertwined, forming a destructive power that obliterated Jiyu Fei. See how I break your universe power. Jiyu Fei's battle intent surged. He constantly punched out with his fists. The vast chaotic true force turned the void he was in into a region of chaos. Terrifying power ripples spread out from his body. At this time, he had no choice but to use the Heaven Ascension secret art. Boom! A monstrous aura suddenly erupted from Ji Fei. His battle strength instantly soared by 10 times. His clothes were torn to pieces by the martial path true force coming out from his body. This was no ordinary clothes. It was a divine robe. However, in the face of absolute power, even a divine robe couldn't withstand it. The entire 8 trigrams formation was shaken by the power coming out from Ji Fei. What? Dongfang Yuan was shocked. He never thought that Ji Fei would still have some strength left. In the previous battle, he actually didn't use his full strength. How was this possible? Countless Dao patterns appeared on Ji Fei's body, interweaving into mysterious patterns. An extremely powerful force was awakened in an instant, and then it exploded with unstoppable force. Yin-yang chaos. Ji Fei let out a furious roar as he waved his fists in front of him. The yin and yang power that was formed from the 8 trigrams formation was drawn by him and then devoured by his fists. Kill. Ji Fei punched out with the primal chaos fist. With one punch, the power of the 5 elements formed by the 8 trigrams array was immediately dispersed. This was an indestructible punch that directly shattered the 8 trigrams array. How is this possible? Dongfang Yuan was shocked. One of the divination images was shattered, and he was also affected. His body swayed several times, the immortal Tao divine force in his body was shaken. No matter what divine ability you have, I will break it with one punch. Ji Fei was extremely powerful. He killed his way out of the 8 trigrams array, shocking all the experts in all directions and shocking everyone who witnessed this scene. The 8 trigrams array finally collapsed, and Dongfang Yuan flew out. Ji Fei's body emitted a shocking aura. At this moment, he was incomparably powerful. His whole body was filled with power, and one after another Dao pattern after another appeared on his body. How is this possible? How did his battle power suddenly increase to such a level? When everyone sensed the pitilessly powerful aura on Ji Fei, they were shocked again. Some of the older experts already thought of something. It's one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the secret art of ascension. The experts of the desolate ancient Zhao clan said such words, and everyone was shocked to the extreme. Wasn't the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao a supreme Tao technique that had long been lost? The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao created by the supreme Tao ancestor was already incomplete in ancient times. Even the orthodox forces of the immortal Tao couldn't collect all 9 secrets. This kind of secret immortal Tao that had been lost for countless years actually appeared again. Could it be that some of the extinct supreme divine arts would appear in this great world? With the rise of the great world in the human world, the mysteries of heaven also became chaotic. No one knew what would happen in this great world, and it was possible that there would be earth-shattering battles. Even saints who were extinct in the human world would jump out. At this time, as soon as the Ascension secret art was used, Ji Fei directly sent Dongfang Yuan flying. His battle power increased tenfold, and he could fight a half-saint head-on. This was Ji Fei's trump card. Die, demon. Just as Ji Fei was about to give chase, a loud shout came from afar, and then a terrifying saintly might came from the direction of the voice. Boom! A divine pearl rushed out and emitted a blinding divine light as it shot toward Ji Fei. This is, boundless flames burst forth from the divine pearl. It was like a sun, illuminating the world. A terrifying heat was emitted from the divine pearl, causing the entire space to distort from the heat. It's the divine pearl of 9 yang from the Zhao clan of the ancient. Someone recognized the divine artifact and exclaimed, "H, after watching for so long, you finally can't help but make a move." Ji Fei sneered. The powerful saint-level fluctuations had no effect on him at all. He used the universal void steps and rushed out. "Since you don't want to abide by the rules, then I won't hold back." Ji Fei's voice rang out in everyone's ears, causing everyone to stare at the scene in horror. The Zhao family's expert had used his saint weapon right from the get-go. Were they planning on killing this person by hook or by crook? In the past 100 years, the Zhao clan and the Dongfang clan had formed an alliance to fight against the ferocious demons in the Devil's Den. At this time, Dongfang Yuan was about to be killed by Ji Yufei, and the people of the Zhao clan naturally couldn't watch Dongfang Yuan be killed. Fellow Taoists, what are you hesitating for? Let's kill this demon together. The voice sounded again, and a figure appeared in the distant sky. It was this person who was activating the divine pearl of Nine Yang, but it was a bit difficult for him to activate the divine artifact alone. I'll help you. Someone responded and rushed towards that person. Then, he stood behind that person and pressed his palm on that person's back. This was a reasonable activation of the divine artifact. Rumble. The world shook. Under the reasonable activation of the two experts, the divine pearl of Nine Yang emitted an even more powerful saint-level power, as if a saint was awakening. Everyone was shocked, and then they retreated far away. The fluctuation of the saint level was too powerful, and no one could withstand it. Endless divine light of Nine Yang rushed out from the divine pearl, piercing the world in all directions. Some unlucky people who couldn't dodge in time were swept by the divine light of Nine Yang and turned into ashes on the spot. Even Ji Yufei was almost swept by the divine light of Nine Yang, which made him secretly shocked. Chapter 1612. Boom. No one could withstand the aura of a saint. Everyone retreated thousands of miles away. Only Ji Yufei and the two experts controlling the Nine Yang divine pearl were not affected by the saint's aura. There was a faint sword aura on Ji Yufei's body. It was this sword aura that blocked the saint's aura, preventing it from getting close to him. What's going on? He's actually not afraid of the power of a saint. How is this possible? The two experts who were controlling the saint artifacts felt uneasy, as if something ominous was about to happen, causing them to feel a sense of trepidation. Clang. Just when the two experts felt that something was wrong, a sword chime rang out. This sword chime was just the sound of an ordinary divine weapon being unsheathed. However, the two experts controlling the Nine Yang divine pearl felt a bone-piercing chill attack their bodies. Go to hell, demon. The two experts used all their strength to activate the Nine Yang divine pearl. Above the Nine Yang divine pearl, boundless flames surged out. It was like a divine sun descending towards Ji Yufei. Within the flames, countless Tao patterns were faintly discernible. At this moment, no one was optimistic about Ji Yufei. Under the attack of the divine tool, his body and soul would be destroyed. Even the most stunning genius would not be able to withstand this attack. Ha ha! You want to kill me? You're not qualified. Ji Yufei laughed. At the same time, a simple and unadorned divine sword appeared in his hand. This long sword did not look eye-catching at all. However, Ji Yufei held this inconspicuous long sword in his hand and slashed at the Nine Yang divine pearl that was descending from the sky. There was no dazzling sword light nor powerful sword aura fluctuation. It was as if he was holding an ordinary long sword and casually slashed. However, some people saw a transparent ripple that was visible to the naked eye rushing out from the divine sword. The experts who witnessed this scene were incomparably shocked. What was the use of an almost transparent sword aura? However, just when everyone thought that Ji Yufei was dead for sure, the boundless divine fire that descended from the Nine Yang divine pearl suddenly split into two. It was as if an invisible sword chi had broken through the layers of divine fire. Swoosh! A light sound rang out. The Nine Yang divine pearl suddenly split apart from the middle. Then, it flew to the two sides. The saint artifact was split into two halves. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to be stunned. As for the two experts controlling the Nine Yang divine pearl, they also turned into two balls of blood mist at the same time. Everything was destroyed, and other than the blood mist, there was nothing left. What happened? I'm not seeing things, right? The Zhao clan's Nine Yang divine pearl was split open by someone. Thousands of miles away, the experts who witnessed all of this were in disbelief. It must be known that the divine pearl of Nine Suns was a saint artifact. When a saint artifact awakened and launched an attack, it was equivalent to the attack of a true saint. The expert from the primordial Zhao family and the other expert were killed by Ji Yufei's sword. To be able to split a saint artifact in half, could the divine sword in that person's hand be a great saint artifact? Even a great saint artifact wouldn't be able to destroy a saint artifact with one sword strike. This is at least a quasi-supreme sword. Among the spectators, there were many old antiques who knew a lot of great secrets of the world. Although the divine sword in Ji Yufei's hand was very inconspicuous, at this moment, no one dared to underestimate it. There were many experts from the Zhao family and the Dongfang family present. At this time, they were all terrified and turned to flee. If they didn't flee now, they wouldn't have the chance to. Mph, it's too late to escape now. Ji Yufei held the violet gold divine sword in his hand and used the 8 desolation void steps. He displayed the world's fastest speed and chased after Dongfang Yuan. There was no way he would let this half-step saint of the Dongfang family go. Under the state of ascension, even the speed of a half-step saint couldn't compare to Ji Yufei. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Ji Yufei caught up to Dongfang Yuan and slashed at him again. Scared out of his wits, Dongfang Yuan used a forbidden divine ability to flee. However, even a half-step saint couldn't escape from the violet gold divine sword. A nearly transparent sword wave swept past, turning Dongfang Yuan into a mist of blood. Killing a half-step saint was just that simple. However, Ji Yufei had only destroyed Dongfang Yuan's physical body, not his nascent spirit. Dongfang Yuan's nascent spirit was sucked into the violet gold divine sword. The reason he didn't destroy Dongfang Yuan's nascent spirit was because he wanted to obtain the ancient cultivation method Dongfang Yuan used. The 8 trigrams divine art was a supreme divine art created by an invincible sovereign in the primordial era. When cultivated to greater mastery, it could be said to be unparalleled under the heavens. Ji Yufei didn't want it to be lost. I'm going to slaughter everyone today. After killing Dongfang Yuan, Ji Yufei continued to kill the experts of the primordial Zhao clan and the Dongfang clan. Everyone was dumbfounded by Ji Yufei's ruthlessness. He directly swung the violet gold divine sword in his hand, harvesting one life after another. This was a massacre without any suspense. Under the violet gold divine sword's blade, no one was a match for Ji Yufei. Even though the violet gold divine sword hadn't awakened, its faintly discernible sword chi was enough to kill a saint. Swoosh! Ji Yufei swung his sword, turning the last person from the primordial Zhao clan into a mist of blood. Only then did he stop. Dozens of experts from the primordial Zhao clan and the Dongfang clan were killed by Ji Yufei. After the recent battles, Ji Yufei felt that his cultivation had reached a bottleneck. It was time for him to go into seclusion and break through to the 6th step. Let's go. After Ji Yufei met up with He Tian and Ji Yuzhong, they directly left the East Royal City. He wanted to destroy the East Royal City with one sword strike, but he felt that the East Royal City was extraordinary. Unless it was the true power of the extreme path, it would be impossible to destroy this ancient city. This battle shook the entire eastern domain, especially the primordial Zhao clan and Dongfang clan. These two superpowers were infuriated, and the clan master of the primordial Zhao clan immediately declared that he would use everything he had to kill Ji Yufei. Compared to the strength of the Zhao clan, the Donghuang clan was unusually quiet. No one from the Dongfang clan came out to say anything. The entire eastern region was in a storm, and all the cultivators felt a sense of oppression. Some people had already predicted that there would be a bloody storm in the eastern region. Many people knew the origin of Ji Yufei. This evil star had actually returned from the heaven realm. 100 years ago, there was a rumor that the Taishen sect had been destroyed by the Zhao clan and the Dongfang clan. It was no secret that Ji Yufei was a disciple of the Taishen sect. He had gone to the Zhao clan and the Dongfang clan of the primordial clan for revenge. Everyone was quietly watching. No one wanted to provoke this evil star, but the Zhao clan and the Dongfang clan of the primordial clan were facing a great enemy. Chapter 1613. Just as the storm was about to descend upon the eastern domain, Ji Yufei hid in his inner world and went into seclusion. He Tian wasn't someone who could stay idle, so he didn't enter Ji Yufei's inner world. He Tian left. He wanted to learn more about the human realm. Although Ji Yuzhong was already a 9th heavenly layer celestial being, there were too many people who were stronger than him in the human realm. According to Ji Yufei, Ji Yuzhong wouldn't be allowed to roam the world unless he became almighty. As a result, Ji Yufei asked Mai Tian to set up a formation in his inner world. Then, he threw Jiyu Zhong into the formation, leaving him to fend for himself. Jiyu Fei wanted to use this extreme method to stimulate Jiyu Zhong's potential so that he could successfully break through the shackles of cultivation and take that crucial step. The cultivators of the Eastern Domain originally thought that a storm of blood would soon set off in the Eastern Domain. However, as the days passed, Jiyu Fei still didn't appear. An old man from the Dongfang clan went out with the human emperor divine weapon in an attempt to find Jiyu Fei, but he ended up empty-handed. The old man from the Zhao clan of the primordial clan also took action. No one knew what kind of foundation the Zhao clan had, but no one dared to underestimate them. This was an inheritance that had existed since the primordial era. Since it could be passed down to the present without being annihilated by the river of time, it must have something to rely on. These forces of the primordial era were not to be trifled with. No one was willing to provoke them. What's going on? Why hasn't that person appeared again? Yeah, it's been half a year. Don't tell me that person has already left the Eastern Domain. Many cultivators were watching from the Eastern Royal City. In the entire Eastern Domain, the most well-informed place was the ancient city that was said to have been built by the Eastern Emperor himself. Since Dongfang Yuan was killed by Jiyu Fei, the Dongfang family no longer sent experts to guard the East Royal City. The death of a half-saint was a great loss for the Dongfang family. In this half a year, the East Imperial City had no governor. Even within the Dongfang family, no one was willing to guard this ancient city. After all, Jiyu Fei could appear at any time. Even Dongfang Yuan had been killed by Jiyu Fei. The elders of the Dongfang family knew that they were not as strong as Dongfang Yuan. Unless they had the human emperor god with them, if Jiyu Fei came to them again, they would end up the same as Dongfang Yuan. Another few months passed. The eastern region, which had been on the brink of a storm, gradually calmed down. Someone saw Dong Huang appearing in the East Royal City. This was explosive news. What did it mean for Dong Huang to appear in the East Royal City? Many people were speculating about the motives of the Dongfang family. Since the battle between Dong Huang and the second prince Yang Hao, Dong Huang had not appeared in the eyes of the world. This time, Dong Huang had come to the East Royal City. Could it be that something had happened in the East Royal City? Soon, a piece of news spread. There was movement in the Devil's Den in the East region. The Devil's Den in the East region was a forbidden area in the East region. Some people said that in the depths of the Devil's Den, there was a peerless demon suppressed, and there were many figures of fierce demons walking in the Devil's Den. When Taishan Mountain collapsed, countless demons rushed out from the ground, causing chaos in the East region. It was a catastrophe. Countless cultivators were killed by those demons. If it weren't for a peerless figure taking action at a critical moment, the entire East region would have fallen into the hands of the demons. Even so, the demons in the Devil's Den still came out from time to time. For nearly 100 years, the cultivators of the entire East region had been fighting with the demons in the Devil's Den. The Zhao family of the ancients and the Dongfang family were the main forces in the East region. Just as Jiyu Fei returned and killed in the East Royal City, there was also movement in the Devil's Den in the mountains. The peerless demon in the depths of the Devil's Den was ready to make a move again. Naturally, the demons didn't want to miss such a great opportunity. The demons are coming out again. In a restaurant in the East Royal City, a young man who looked like a playboy was drinking by himself. The wine and dishes on the table in front of him were very ordinary. Have you heard? Dong Huang is here. What do you mean Dong Huang is here? Where is he? HMPH, who is Dong Huang? Why did he come to this restaurant? Around a table that the young man was separated from, sat 4 young practitioners. The 4 young practitioners were talking in low voices. The content of their conversation was Dong Huang. Dong Huang was not the invincible Dong Huang of ancient times. The current Dong Huang was a peerless cultivator of the younger generation cultivated by the Dongfang family. This number 1 cultivator of the younger generation in the East region was very mysterious. No one had seen his true face. They only knew that he wore a battle suit made of 9th heaven meteorite iron. It was this 9th heaven meteorite iron battle suit that covered Dong Huang's entire body, revealing only a pair of eyes. Dong Huang, interesting. The young man was attracted by the conversation of the four practitioners. After a while, he stood up and left the restaurant, heading in the direction of the Castellan's mansion. This young man didn't barge into the Castellan's mansion. Instead, he loitered outside. Ever since the Castellan's mansion was breached by Jiu Fei, the security of the Castellan's mansion had been tightened. From time to time, the sound of orderly footsteps could be heard coming from inside. These were the soldiers of the Dongfang family patrolling the Castellan's mansion. At this time, Dong Huang was in the Castellan's mansion. No one knew why he was there. Although Dong Huang was strong, He Tian wasn't afraid of him. He Tian was very curious about whether this Dong Huang was a man or a woman. However, after loitering outside the Castellan's mansion for a day, He Tian didn't see Dong Huang coming out. He could only find an inn outside the Castellan's mansion to stay. At this time, many practitioners had gathered in the East Imperial City. Almost all the inns in the city were full. However, He Tian was able to easily find a place to stay. However, very quickly, He Tian realized that he was being watched. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was surprised that someone could actually watch him. He didn't make a sound. The next morning, before the sky was completely bright, he left the inn and headed straight out of the city. After leaving the East Imperial City, He Tian headed straight for the dense forest that was 100 miles away from the city. When He Tian was walking in front of the dense forest, a person silently walked out of the forest and blocked He Tian's path. "It's you." When He Tian saw this person, he was instantly shocked. He didn't expect that the person who had been watching him would be this person. This person was covered from head to toe in a battle robe. Only a pair of bright black eyes could be seen. The ancient battle robe was covered with marks left by weapons. This person was Dong Huang. Chapter 1614. The ancient battle robe had a kind of Tao lingering around it. This was a sacred robe refined by an ancient sage, and it contained the power of the ancient sage. He Tian never thought that he would be targeted by Dong Huang. "Who are you?" A cold voice came from the sacred robe. It was a neutral voice, making it impossible to tell whether the speaker was a man or a woman. Dong Huang was very direct. He cultivated a very special magic that could sense He Tian spying on him, so he responded in the most direct way. "H, you are the one who blocked my way. I want to ask who you are." A smirk appeared on He Tian's face as he looked at Dong Huang with some evil intentions. The power of yin and yang intertwined in his eyes. He wanted to use the yin-yang godly eyes to see through the sacred robe, but he did not succeed. Even the strange power of the yin-yang godly eyes could not see through the sacred robe refined by an ancient sage. The sacred robe contained the power of the Great Path, which isolated all auras, and also blocked the prying of He Tian's yin-yang godly eyes. "I will know everything after I take you down." Dong Huang did not say much and directly attacked. He stretched out his hand, and his right hand quickly expanded, covering the void in front of him as he grabbed at He Tian. He Tian moved his feet, and his whole body flew backward. In an instant, he appeared thousands of feet away. His speed was so fast that even Dong Huang was shocked. "I have underestimated you." Dong Huang retracted his hand and soared into the sky. He strode through the air, and with every step he took, Tao patterns would appear beneath his feet. In just 2 steps, he had caught up to my Tian. "Control of heaven and earth." He Tian shouted and directly used the yin-yang technique. His hands turned into 2 extremes of yin and yang, and a yin-yang void appeared between heaven and earth. Rumble, a power that could devour heaven and earth, surged out from the yin-yang void, directly swallowing Dong Huang, who was rushing over, and then wanted to suppress and kill him. "Even heaven and earth can't trap me, let alone the void you've created." Dong Huang was extremely domineering, displaying his powerful battle prowess. With a single punch, he broke through the yin-yang void that He Tian had conjured and rushed out. What? This time, He Tian couldn't help but be shocked. Although he already knew that this person was extremely powerful, he realized that he had still underestimated the number 1 person in the eastern region's younger generation. Dong Huang was known to be invincible among the younger generation in the East region, and it was not a lie. "If you're only at this level, I think it's best if you don't resist." Dong Huang's voice became incomparably cold. He had an invincible aura. Damn it. He Tian's expression turned ugly. This guy actually dared to look down on him. It seemed that if he didn't teach him a lesson, he would really think that he was invincible. Void formation. He Tian's voice was equally cold. As he spoke, countless formation runes rushed out from his body, imprinting themselves in the void between heaven and earth. The formation runes attracted the power of heaven and earth from all directions, borrowing the power of heaven and earth. A terrifying wave of energy was emitted from He Tian's body. This is, behind the saint robe, Dong Huang's eyes flickered with radiance. A starry sky seemed to be faintly discernible in his eyes. His inner force seemed to have the sun, moon, and stars descending, incomparably terrifying. Formation Grandmaster. Dong Huang couldn't help but be shocked. This method of creating a formation out of nothing was too shocking. In the entire human realm, there had never been such a person. Buzz. The void vibrated. Lines of formation runes spread out from He Tian's body. With him as the center, a killing formation appeared in front of Dong Huang. A terrifying wave of energy spread in all directions, alarming the experts in the entire region. This place wasn't very far from the East Royal City. The cultivators in the East Royal City immediately sensed the movement and rushed towards the place where He Tian and Dong Huang were. In a short while, many powerful figures appeared in the sky nearby. The unusual movement in the East Region Devil Cave alarmed all the cultivators in the East Region. At this time, many cultivators had gathered in the East Royal City, and there was no lack of experts among them. It's Dong Huang. Who is that person? He's actually fighting with Dong Huang, creating a formation out of nothing. This person is incredible. In the distant sky, people were whispering. Dong Huang had made a big name for himself in the East region. Even among the experts of the older generation, there weren't many who were Dong Huang's opponent. Dong Huang's cultivation had already faintly surpassed the experts of the older generation. And the method that He Tian displayed was equally shocking. Creating a formation out of nothing, this was a great technique that only the legendary formation grandmaster could use. Since when did a formation grandmaster appear in the human realm? Everyone was incomparably shocked. A formation grandmaster used formations to increase his combat strength. Such a person could rely on formations to borrow all the energy in the world. At this time, He Tian's killing array emitted a terrifying wave of energy. The entire world seemed to be sinking towards Dong Huang, causing him to feel great pressure. This guy is actually a formation grandmaster. Dong Huang never thought that this person would hide so deeply. The great force of heaven and earth was drawn by the killing array, turning into a terrifying killing force. In the void, pitch-black spatial cracks appeared. All the spatial cracks spread towards Dong Huang. Even if he was wearing the saint robe refined by an ancient sage, Dong Huang had no choice but to retreat at this moment. This was the destructive power produced by the collapse of the void. Dong Huang didn't want to be swallowed by the spatial cracks. Rumble. He Tian activated the killing array and suppressed it towards Dong Huang. This was an unforgettable scene. Billions of formation runes bloomed with endless divine light, attracting the essence of heaven and earth from all directions. Such a killing array was not He Tian's strongest, but it was enough to shock the world. A terrifying aura spread between the heavens and the earth, intimidating everyone. Within the killing array, there was a faint trace of saintly might. Using this killing formation, Mai Tian had raised his battle prowess to a frightening level. This was similar to the Ascension secret art, one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Moreover, He Tian's killing array had no time limit. It could continuously devour the essence of heaven and earth from all directions. In theory, the killing array's power could be infinitely increased. Dong Huang kept retreating. The power of the killing array made him very wary. The spectators in the distance were all shocked to the extreme. An invincible existence of the Eastern Domain's younger generation was actually forced to retreat. This was something that had never happened before. Who is that person? Everyone was very interested in He Tian's identity. Since when did a person who could compete with Dong Huang appear in the Eastern Domain? This was not a small matter. Tumphh, weren't you very arrogant just now? Come and suppress me. He Tian's voice rang out from within the killing array. All the cultivators who were watching the battle from afar could hear his voice. He was doing this on purpose to let everyone know. Hearing this, Dong Huang did not say anything. Instead, he flipped his hands, and a spear appeared in his hands. This spear was refined from the same divine material as the holy robe he was wearing. The divine spear and the holy robe seemed to be a complete set. This made He Tian secretly shocked. The saint weapons refined by the ancient sages possessed immense might. The items on Dong Huang's body caused even Mahakala's eyes to turn red. He wanted nothing more than to rip off Dong Huang's saint clothes and take them for himself. Boom! A shocking aura suddenly erupted from Dong Huang's body. The spear in his hands seemed to be coming to life. Divine patterns of the Great Path appeared on its surface. Swish! Dong Huang directly threw the spear in his hand at He Tian's killing array. The spear turned into a destructive divine light and directly pierced into the killing array. What? He Tian was shocked. He sensed a terrible murderous aura from the spear. This kind of aura made him feel great danger. Rumble! The entire killing formation trembled. Countless formation runes collapsed under the attack of the battle spear. The killing power that emanated from the battle spear destroyed everything in its path, almost destroying the entire formation. Swish! He Tian directly abandoned the killing array, tore the void, and fled. The whole killing array finally collapsed completely. Countless matrix patterns disappeared in the void. The great array collapsed, and the terrible power formed swept out in all directions. The remaining power came down from the sky. The earth was shaking. Rows of trees fell, and countless boulders rolled down from the mountains. The whole area was in chaos. 100 miles away in the sky, a figure directly rushed out from the void. Outrageous! I didn't expect Dong Huang to have such a killing weapon. This person was He Tian. It was not that his cultivation was not enough, but that the other party did not follow the rules and used a saint-level killing weapon. Kill! A loud shout came from the sky. At this moment, He Tian once again felt an extremely dangerous aura. 100 miles away, a destructive divine light shot up into the sky and pierced towards him. When a tiger doesn't show its power, do you think I, old He, am a sick cat? He Tian was angry. This Dong Huang was too despicable. Did he think that he was the only one with a holy weapon? Without thinking too much, He Tian directly used the secret technique of ascension. His combat ability instantly increased by at least 5 times. Endless yin and yang essence chi burst out from his body. Buzz! A sword chime sounded from his body. An almost transparent sword light rushed out from between his eyebrows. Then, it turned into an almost transparent divine sword that he held in his hand. Eat my sword! Mai Tian roared furiously. His long hair danced wildly, and the entire world trembled from his roar. He slashed out with his sword with all his might, and a formless sword light soared tens of thousands of feet in an instant, imbued with saint-level power. Swish! The strongest sword instantly broke through the void of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world was split into 2 halves by the sword. In the entire world, there was only the brilliance of this sword. This, 100 miles away, Dong Huang was also shocked when he sensed the power of He Tian's attack. He never thought that the guy he found would also have a holy weapon and that his cultivation was similar to his. The shocking sword light and the destructive divine light formed by the spear were about to collide. At that moment, all the spectators fled far away. This was a collision between holy weapons. No one knew what terrifying things would happen, but the consequences would definitely be severe. Chapter 1615. Indestructible Martial Saint Main Text Chapter 1622. Chapter 1622 Exit Indestructible Martial Saint Main Text Chapter 1622. Chapter 1622 Exit Xian Huan Fantasy Indestructible Martial Saint Main Text Chapter 1622. Chapter 1622 Return to Indestructible Martial Saint Main Text Chapter 1622. Chapter 1622 Novel Name, Indestructible Martial Saint Author, Liang Clan Third Young Master Type, Xian Huan Fantastical Indestructible Martial Saint Dong Huang's consecutive attacks caused He Tian to be infuriated. He didn't hesitate to use the Ascension secret technique to increase his battle prowess to the limit. He then activated the formless divine sword to clash with Donghuang. Shuhage. Pure text. The formless divine reef shot out a 10,000 zhong long sword light. This sword light was almost transparent, but it was visible to the naked eye. It was like a transparent water curtain that fell from the sky. Everywhere it passed, a pitch-black spatial crack appeared in the void. The void of the mortal world couldn't withstand the sword chi of the formless divine reef. A terrifying saint aura appeared between the heaven and earth. Although everyone was shocked, no one would have thought that He Tian also had a saint weapon. This was a battle between two saint weapons. Even Donghuang was shocked. His opponent also had a saint weapon. This was beyond his expectations. He didn't think that this guy had hidden his strength so deeply. Buzz. His spear vibrated. Donghuang had no choice but to use his full strength. His saint robe resonated with his spear, causing it to display the power of a saint. The two saint auras shook the heavens and earth, shaking the earth. More than half of the Eastern Domain's experts could feel the fluctuations of the saint level. Billions of lives were trembling. The power of a saint had surpassed everything. Even the laws of heaven and earth in the mortal world couldn't suppress this power. One must know that saints were transcendent existences in the mortal world. Everyone was fleeing. No one knew what would happen when two saint weapons collided. There had never been such a battle in the mortal world. In the mortal world, some peerless characters didn't want this level of power to appear too early and cause a great calamity. If a peerless character sensed the fluctuations of this power, they would intervene. Free novel. Just like the battle between Donghuang and Second Prince Yang on Luofeng Mountain, at the critical moment, Ghost Emperor Fengju suddenly appeared and stopped the catastrophe. But now, it seemed like no peerless figure had intervened. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, the sword chi collided with Donghuang's spear. In the instant that the two saint weapons collided, the entire world suddenly became silent. In that instant, no one could hear a single sound. Lian Yang's eyes widened in shock. Afterwards, a terrifying sound wave suddenly exploded. A transparent ripple spread from the point of collision between the two saint weapons. Wherever the transparent ripple passed, the space was directly annihilated. The moment the saint weapons collided, He Tian and Donghuang were blown away. The destructive force caused He Tian to suffer a great impact, causing him to spit out 3 mouthfuls of blood. His physical body is almost shattered. The might of this saint weapon, He Tian flew for 1,000 miles before he stabilized his body. His body was covered with cracks, and yin and yang essence was seeping out from the cracks. He could no longer maintain the state of ascension. His powerful aura disappeared, and his expression became weary. Donghuang didn't have it easy either. Although he had the protection of the saint garment, he still suffered from the impact of the saint force. However, the saint garment on his body had countless Dao runes that dissolved most of the power. Rumble, the void was collapsing and being annihilated. In just an instant, the destructive power that spread out in all directions destroyed everything within a radius of 100 miles, leaving nothing behind. The mighty might that came down from the sky directly erased everything on the ground. Even the tallest mountain peak was instantly turned into dust. This was the result of the confrontation between saint weapons. All living beings within 100 miles were killed. Many cultivators who couldn't escape in time were affected and directly turned into ashes. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. Even Donghuang City was affected. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. The power of the saint weapon was too frightening. From this, it could be seen how powerful the forces that had saint weapons were. Forces that had produced saints all had deep foundations. No one was willing to provoke them. I'll settle the score with you next time. He Tian recalled the invisible divine sword and took out the matrix platform. He immediately boarded it and left quickly. He was definitely not willing to be at a disadvantage. His opponent had the protection of the saint garment and the saint weapon in his hand. He had both offense and defense. In the end, he still couldn't defeat his opponent. He wasn't a pedantic person. Since he couldn't defeat his opponent, he would leave immediately. He wouldn't fight to the death even though he knew he couldn't defeat his opponent. That would be courting death. Donghuang also withdrew his spear. This was a powerful opponent. He had miscalculated and provoked such a person. He had made such a great enemy for the Dongfang family for no reason. However, he didn't regret it. As long as he was strong enough, no matter how many enemies there were, he would be able to kill them one by one. Why should he be afraid? I wanted to meet that Jiyu Fei, Donghuang said to himself. Donghuang muttered to himself. The reason why he appeared in the Eastern Royal City was to use himself as bait to lure out Jiyu Fei, who was hiding in the dark, and then kill him. His move was indeed very bold. It should be known that Jiyu Fei was not an ordinary powerhouse. However, Jiyu Fei was in seclusion, and no one knew when he would come out. However, no one knew that Jiyu Fei was in seclusion. The Dongfang family did not relax. The Zhao family of the ancients was also on guard. It should be known that back then, it was the Dongfang family and some people from the Zhao family of the ancients who joined forces to break into the Dragon Valley and destroy the Supreme Mystery Sect. This kind of hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. No one thought that Jiyu Fei would give up on revenge. It was because Jiyu Fei had not made a move that the Dongfang family and the Zhao family of the ancients felt uneasy. They didn't know what Jiyu Fei was preparing in secret. They didn't know when Jiyu Fei would suddenly jump out and attack them. At this time, in the Devil's Den, one of the two forbidden areas of the Eastern Domain, there was a continuous flow of devil chi that covered the sky. Even at noon, when the sun was high up in the sky, the entire area around the Devil's Den was gloomy and gloomy. The devil chi that overflowed from the Devil's Den enveloped the entire area. From time to time, there would be devil shadows walking in the Devil's Den, and from the depths of the Devil's Den, there would be heart-palpitating devil roars coming from time to time. A terrifying demonic aura spread out from the Devil's Den. There were many cultivators in the periphery of the Devil's Den. The major forces of the Eastern Domain did not dare to let their guard down because the Devil's Den was a source of devil chi in the Eastern Domain and even the entire soaring continent. Even the Dongfang family and the Zhao family of the ancients had sent experts to guard outside the Devil's Den. The unusual movements of the Devil's Den affected the nerves of every cultivator in the Eastern Domain. This was a major event. If the countless devils in the Devil's Den came out again, the entire Eastern Domain would flow with rivers of blood. While the various major forces were keeping a close watch on the Devil's Den, on a dark and windy night, a demonic figure walked out from the depths of the Devil's Den. That demonic figure was extremely powerful. He directly attacked the experts of the Dongfang family and the primordial Zhao family, killing all the cultivators who were near the demonic area. His methods were extremely ruthless. Chapter 1616. The appearance of the Devil's Son had shaken the entire eastern region. In the past few days, experts from the Dongfang family and the primordial Zhao family had been killed by this devil. A storm was brewing in the entire eastern region. Many people had already guessed that this was just the beginning. For hundreds of years, the Eastern Domain cultivators had been constantly fighting with the devils that came out of the Devil's Den. They had never stopped fighting, and the devils in the Devil's Den were obviously at a disadvantage. The primordial Zhao family and the Dongfang family had joined forces, forcing the devils in the Devil Den to retreat to the Devil Den. However, in recent years, the devil in the Devil Cave started to become restless again. This caused the ancient desolate powers to feel uneasy. There were rumors that a peerless devil in the Devil Cave was about to break free. One had to know that the 9 peaks of Taishen had been a place of suppression for demons. The peerless ferocious demon had yet to appear, but the demon child had. The demon child was incomparably strong, second only to the peerless ferocious demon. He had once led an army of demons to fight against the Dongfang family and the primordial Zhao family for a full 10 years. In these 10 years of war, many powerhouses had fallen, and the demons had also suffered heavy casualties. In the end, they had no choice but to retreat to the demon's den to recuperate. This time, the Devil's Son didn't lead the army of demons out of the demon's den. Instead, he left the demon's den alone and began to kill the experts of the eastern region. On this evening, in a certain mountain in the Eastern Domain, demonic chi soared into the sky. A terrifying demonic figure intercepted an old man. This old man's body shone with immortal light, and there was a Tao aura flowing around him. This was an old man, a peak expert. "You demon, the experts of my clan are looking for you everywhere. You actually dare to appear here?" A divine sword floated above the old man's head. The old man was very nervous because the other party was the demonic son. "Humph. When those fellows find this place, they will only find your dried corpse." The demon son laughed coldly. This was a young man who looked no different from a human. However, his body was surrounded by demonic energy and there was a terrifying demonic aura emanating from his body. After saying that, the devil's son pounced at the old man. The surrounding void seemed to collapse from the mighty demonic power that came from the devil's son's body. Buzz! The divine sword above the old man's head let out a roar and emitted a sword light that was tens of thousands of feet long. Then, it slashed towards the devil child that was pouncing over. This was a mighty figure of the sword Tao. His offensive prowess was definitely at the pinnacle of those of the same cultivation level. With a single strike of his sword, all techniques were broken. The layers of demonic aura were split apart by this sword light as it headed straight for the demon child. The light of a star dares to compete with the radiance of the moon. The devil's son stretched out his hand and grabbed the sword beam. Boundless demonic power erupted from his hand and the sword beam immediately dimmed. The old man was shocked. That was his natal sword, and he had cultivated it for countless years. It had long become a part of his body. At that moment, the divine sword was being corroded by the demonic chi. The spiritual chi was rapidly being converted into demonic chi. The demonic son was devouring the essence within the divine sword. "What? Don't tell me you've mastered that kind of demonic technique." The old man was shocked. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. He had actually damaged his own Tao power and severed all connections between himself and the divine sword. At that moment, the old man's face turned extremely pale. His connection with the divine sword had been severed by himself. This caused his Tao foundation to be impacted. Swoosh! The old man turned into a sword beam and rushed into the sky. He wanted to escape. He didn't dare to stay in this place anymore. The opponent was too strong and he was no match for him at all. "You still want to escape in front of me?" Crack! The divine sword in the devil's son's hand quickly dimmed. With a jolt of demonic power, the divine weapon broke into several pieces and became a few pieces of scrap metal. Then, the devil's son chased after him unhurriedly and struck out with his palm. Rumble! The heavens and earth shook. Endless demonic chi quickly condensed into a pitch-black demonic hand. It slapped towards the sword beam in front of him. The space was shattering and the giant hand instantly covered the entire sky. Without any suspense, the sword beam that the old man had turned into was slapped down from the sky by the giant hand. Then, it was grabbed by the demonic hand and all his Tao power was sucked away. He became a dried-up corpse. This kind of demonic technique was extremely domineering. It could devour the essence, chi, and spirit of a cultivator. Even the primordial spirit couldn't escape. After devouring the old man's Tao power, the devil's son was about to leave when he suddenly felt something. He turned around and looked at the space in front of him. "You've been watching for so long. Do you still want to keep watching?" The devil's son's voice was extremely cold. With his cultivation, it took him so long to sense that someone was hiding and spying on him. This really annoyed him. "I didn't expect you to notice me like this." Following the voice, an extremely weak ripple appeared in the space. Then, a figure walked out as if he had directly walked out of the space. "You didn't run after seeing me. Very good of you." After the devil's son saw this person, his pupils constricted. This was a guy who was covered in godly items. Especially the fan in this guy's hand. It was actually made from the feathers of a rare golden bird. Hee hee. What a joke. I've met demons who are much stronger than you. You. Me. This person glanced at the devil's son and a faint look of disdain appeared on his face. The devil's son was furious. Ever since he started his cultivation, no one had dared to look down on him. This guy was just a powerful emperor. What right did he have to be so arrogant? What about you? If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't, then I'm leaving. He Tian was extremely relaxed and didn't look nervous at all. It was as if he didn't care about the Devil's Son at all. One should know that the Devil's Son had been in the limelight in the East region recently. Many strong cultivators in the East region had already died in the hands of the Devil's Son. Roar. You're courting death. The Devil's Son couldn't take it anymore. He roared angrily and two beams of evil bloodlight shot out from his eyes. His long hair turned into a demonic dragon and rushed towards He Tian. Whoosh! He Tian directly fanned forward. A divine fire rushed out from the fan in his hand and burned towards the demonic dragon that was rushing towards him. The terrifying heat caused the void to distort. A burning smell immediately spread in the void. The moment the demonic dragon that was formed by the Devil's Son's long hair came into contact with the divine fire, it quickly shrank back. Damn it! The Devil's Son roared angrily. Ever since he started his cultivation, he had never suffered such a loss. A lot of his long hair was actually burnt. This shocked and angered him. Who was this guy? How could he have such combat strength? Heaven transformation hand. The Devil's Son was furious. He stretched out his hand and a black hole appeared in his palm. A heaven-devouring force erupted from the black hole and even the void was pulled into the black hole. He Tian only felt his body tighten. He was actually being sucked in by this suction force. Then, he flew towards the Devil's Son's hand and was about to be sucked into the black hole. He Tian was shocked. Chapter 16-17. The demon son of the East region appeared and attacked aggressively, constantly killing the experts of the various races in the East region. For a time, all the experts of the major forces in the East region felt threatened. But right at this moment, the demon son met with a strong opponent. The sunset glow was like blood. In the depths of the mountains, there was a desolate killing intent. High up in the sky, a black hole suddenly appeared, devouring everything in the world. A figure was sucked into the black hole. Rumble, the world shook. The black hole in the sky seemed to be connected to a demonic domain. It emitted a demonic power that made one's heart palpitate. There was a power to devour the heavens, devouring everything. You want to transform the sky with one hand? You're still too young. He Tian's face revealed a look of disdain. Then, the power of yin and yang surged out from his body. The power of yin and yang intertwined, and a yin-yang diagram emerged from his body. The diagram vibrated and actually blocked the power of the heaven transformation hand. It allowed He Tian to stabilize his body, no longer being sucked in by the heaven transformation hand. Yin-yang technique. The demon son of the East region was taken aback. The heaven transformation hand that he cultivated could transform all the power in the world, but at this time, it was useless against this guy. What's your relationship with that person in the extreme north demonic domain? The demon son put away the heaven transformation hand. His figure flickered, and in an instant, he retreated thousands of feet away. The speed was so fast that even He Tian was stunned and secretly shocked. The demons did not want to miss this opportunity. The appearance of the demon's son was enough to explain everything. The demons were also going to take action. He Tian wanted to eliminate a few experts among the demons first and extinguish the flames of arrogance of the demons. However, the strength of this demon's son was beyond his expectations. I don't know what you're talking about. He Tian's left hand turned into a black moon, and his right hand turned into a blazing divine sun. The power of yin and yang was vast, and it evolved into a yin-yang diagram. The most primitive power in the world erupted from his body. Boom! The yin-yang divine diagram suddenly became countless times larger, covering the entire sky and obliterating the devil child. This was a Tao diagram formed by the interweaving of yin and yang Tao energy. In an instant, it sealed the heaven and earth in all directions, enveloping the devil child. The devil's son was taken aback. The other party was much stronger than he had imagined, and this caused him to become serious. The other party's killing technique was too powerful, and even he felt a sense of danger. Universal demonic palm. The demonic child hollered out as he struck out with the unparalleled killing skill that he had cultivated. At this moment, the entire power of the heaven and earth seemed to be under his control. Within the entire void of the entire world, he was the only one. Like a demon lord who could destroy the world, the devil's son's long hair danced in the wind, and his eyes flickered with blood light. Tao patterns that emitted a heart-palpitating aura of the devil Tao were imprinted in all directions, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth. The two powers collided very quickly. It was a huge collision. The yin-yang divine picture unleashed an endless amount of yin and yang power, which continuously cancelled out the demonic power of the demonic child. The void between the two of them was silently annihilated. In the end, neither of them could truly suppress the other. The yin-yang divine diagram dissipated, and the power of heaven and earth that the demonic son had attracted was also obliterated by the diagram. The first head-on clash between He Tian and the devil's son was only a draw. "Good fella, you are worthy of me using my true strength." The devil's son's heart trembled. This opponent was much scarier than ordinary opponents, and he had no choice but to get serious. "Very good, you are also worthy of me using my full strength." That frivolous expression on He Tian's face disappeared. Within his eyes, the power of yin and yang interweaved, and it was as though the sun and moon were sinking in his eyes. "Kill." Demonic aura filled the sky as the devil's son roared in anger. He turned into a beam of demonic light and pounced towards He Tian. A terrifying demonic power surged forth, causing the entire world to tremble. Is it really the infinite demonic art? He Tian couldn't help but be moved. He could feel that the moment the devil's son turned into a beam of demonic light, all the essence chi in the void was drawn towards that beam of demonic light. This demonic art could convert all the essence chi in the world for one's own use. It was extremely domineering. "I don't believe that you can convert my power as well." He Tian's fighting spirit was like a rainbow. He directly used the yin-yang grand art, and the yin-yang Tao diagram condensed on his body once more. The power of the great Tao curled around him as he directly met the demonic light. Peng! He Tian's hands danced, and the yin-yang Tao diagram appeared in front of him. It blocked forward and collided with the demonic light formed by the devil's son. Just as the yin-yang Tao diagram collided with the demonic light, He Tian felt the yin and yang essence chi in his body showing signs of being affected. Even the essence chi condensed by the yin-yang Tao diagram was shaken. "Transform the heavens and earth, I am the only one." The devil's son used the infinite demonic art with all his strength. Endless essence chi crazily gathered towards him, and his combat strength rapidly increased. A terrifying aura began to emanate from his body. Good heavens, he wants to raise his combat strength to the saint realm? He Tian was taken aback. His opponent was too terrifying. This kind of demonic art was famous in ancient times. It was said that it could transform any expert and was invincible. The devil's son's performance made He Tian feel great pressure. This guy was most likely the descendant of that fierce ancient demon. His demonic art made even He Tian wary. This demon was like a black hole that could devour everything. However, He Tian was not so easy to bully. The yin-yang grand art was mysterious and unfathomable. For a moment, even the infinite demonic art couldn't shake it. Endless demonic chi shrouded the depths of the mountain. Within the demonic chi, there would be yin-yang divine light piercing through from time to time. The terrifying aura caused the nearby creatures to panic. "Good demon, you forced me to do this." He Tian roared. His opponent's combat strength was constantly increasing, making him feel danger. This kind of demonic art was terrifying. This devil's son was only at the almighty emperor realm, but with the support of this demonic art, the devil's son's combat strength was gradually approaching the saint realm. This was definitely not good for He Tian. "You're dead. After devouring your yin-yang essence chi, my cultivation will definitely rise to the next level." The devil's son's voice came from within the demonic chi. Lines of demonic patterns were constantly imprinted in the void. The devil's son attracted the essence chi of heaven and earth to suppress the surroundings, trapping He Tian in the demonic chi. He wanted to slowly refine He Tian. However, He Tian would definitely not sit and wait for death. He had no choice but to use the Heaven Ascension secret art. A shocking power suddenly erupted from his body. Boom! The whole world shook. Countless array patterns rushed out from He Tian's body, instantly covering the entire void. A towering murderous aura appeared between heaven and earth. The Devil's Son was shocked. He never expected that this guy still had some strength left. This was a type of array pattern that broke through the seal of his demonic chi and imprinted in the void, creating an array out of nothing. You are an array master. Only now did the Devil's Son realize his opponent's identity. He actually encountered an array master. He couldn't help but be surprised and happy. In this case, he couldn't let this guy go. Buzz. At this moment, the void shook. The killing array laid down by He Tian was activated. A towering murderous aura seeped out from the killing array, dispersing all the demonic chi in the surroundings. Swish! Rays of destructive killing light appeared from the killing array and pierced through the void towards the Devil's Son. The killing intent was so shocking that even an existence like the Devil's Son couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate. Heaven Transformation Hand. The Devil's Son pressed his right hand forward. A black hole appeared in his palm. Countless rays of destructive killing light that pierced towards him were all devoured by the black hole. Be careful that you don't explode. He Tian's cold voice rang out from within the killing matrix. Matrix techniques were his forte. Streaks of yin and yang Dao patterns continuously emerged from his hands and were imprinted into the matrix. The power of yin and yang intertwined. In the middle of the killing array, a yin-yang diagram was faintly discernible. Powerful energy waves shook the entire area. A battle like this startled everyone. Very soon, silhouettes of experts appeared in the distance. Roar! Just at this moment, a furious roar rang out from the sky as a pitilessly powerful figure appeared in the sky. The moment that person appeared, he took out a godly bow, narked an arrow, and shot it at the Devil's Son. Demons were the greatest enemies of all cultivators in the world. This sudden appearance of an expert didn't require any hesitation. He attacked the Devil's Son directly. The divine arrow pierced through the void, shattered the heaven and earth, and emitted a terrifying energy wave of the Saint Realm. What? The Devil's Son was shocked. His body flashed and turned into a black hole. He used the infinite demon transformation art and actually wanted to melt the divine arrow. Even He Tian was shocked to see such an action. PFFF. The divine arrow flew from the sky and shot into the black hole. Endless demonic chi was annihilated. Then, with a boom, the black hole exploded. A figure flew out and a large amount of demonic blood splattered from the sky. This was the power of a saint realm. How could it be melted so easily? The Devil's Son suffered a huge impact and his physical body almost collapsed. He didn't stop. Using this energy, he used the demonic blood escape art and turned into a bloody light, instantly leaving. This escape art that used one's own blood as a guide was so fast that it was comparable to Gu Fei's extreme speed of 8 steps. Even if the person in the sky wanted to shoot another arrow, it would be too late. That person came with a holy weapon and directly chased in the direction where the Devil's Son disappeared. Seeing this, He Tian hurriedly put away the killing array and followed. This demon cultivated the infinite demon transformation art, and it was very likely that he had reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. This kind of demonic art could turn the essence of a cultivator for his own use. This demon walked out of the demon's lair and probably wanted to devour the essence of a cultivator to break through the shackles of his current cultivation. If that was really the case, all the cultivators in the East region would be the Devil's Son's target. Some of the experts in the East region had already thought of this possibility. Therefore, all the major forces sent out their experts to kill this Devil's Son. However, the Devil's Son was extremely cunning. Not only did they not kill him, but many cultivators from the major forces died in the hands of the Devil's Son. He Tian was very clear about the characteristics of the infinite demon transformation art. This demon had to die. Otherwise, there would be big trouble. Chapter 1618. The news that the Eastern region's Devil's Son cultivated the myriad demonic transformation technique shook the entire Eastern region and even the entire cultivation world. The myriad demonic transformation technique was a forbidden technique. This kind of demonic technique could transform all the essence energy in the world for its own use. Therefore, the devil's son who cultivated this technique was definitely the enemy of all the cultivators in the world. Many great powers sent out experts with holy weapons to chase after the devil's son. However, the devil's son was extremely cunning. Ever since he was injured by a holy arrow, he never showed himself again. Everyone knew that the devil's son had hidden himself to heal. The holy arrow's attack caused a great impact on him, causing his demonic body to almost collapse. This kind of injury wasn't easy to recover from. Everyone, including Hei Tian, wanted to find this devil's son. Some even invited the experts of the Grand Development Gate from the human realm to use the Grand Development Divine technique to deduce the devil's son's location. The human realm's Grand Development Gate was a special existence. This gate used the Grand Development Divine technique to steal the heaven's secret. Therefore, all of its members were punished by the heavens and their disciples withered. In this generation, the Grand Development Gate only had 3 successors. If all 3 of them were killed, then the gate would be exterminated. Old Man Xuanji was the current gate master of the human realm's Grand Development Gate. He had 2 disciples who had already obtained 60 to 70% of his true teachings. This time, an expert from the eastern region invited one of the 2 disciples of Old Man Xuanji. This disciple of the Grand Development Gate was indeed impressive. He spent half an hour and paid the price of a mouthful of essence blood to deduce the devil's son's location. Stealing the heaven's secret was an act that would incur the jealousy of the heavens. The people of the Grand Development Gate usually didn't want to deduce the fate of others in order to avoid being punished by the heavens. After knowing where the devil's son was hiding, the experts from the Eastern Clan, the Zhao Clan, and the experts from the Central Plains acted together. The Sky Market was definitely a forbidden area in the Eastern region or even the entire Tenglong continent. According to legend, the Sky Market was formed when a small piece of the heaven realm fell into the human realm during the dark chaos of the late prehistoric era. Although countless years had passed, it was still difficult for the heaven and earth law in the Sky Market to merge with the heaven and earth law in the mortal realm. The heaven and earth aura in the Sky Market was different from that of the mortal realm. Furthermore, although the Sky Market was filled with danger, there were also many ruins. There had been people who had picked up fragments of holy weapons from these ruins. At this moment, demonic chi lingered in a hidden valley in the periphery of the heavenly market. All the plants had already withered and lost their vitality. The demonic energy devoured all the life essence energy in the valley. Many beasts' corpses were lying on the withered grass, leaving only their skins behind. All their blood essence had been drained away. In the depths of the valley, at the source of the demonic chi, there was a demonic shadow looming there. Demonic patterns lingered in the void, emitting a demonic light that made one's heart palpitate. The fiend sun hid in this nameless valley to recuperate. At this moment, 3 figures appeared outside the valley. These 3 figures silently approached the nameless valley from 3 different directions. The prediction of the brilliant disciple of the Grand Development Gate was very accurate. Although the valley was incomparably quiet without any demonic chi, this kind of silence was rather abnormal. One had to know that the spiritual energy in the area where the Sky Market and the mortal realm intersected was much denser than other places. In these areas, vegetation flourished and there were even many ferocious beasts roaming about. The surrounding of the valley was incomparably quiet, which in itself did not match this region. I would like to see how this guy is going to escape this time. A figure appeared in the distant sky, watching the scene coldly. This person was none other than Erebus. He did not want to miss out on this mission. Among the 3 experts, 2 were from the Dongfang family and the desolate Zhao family respectively. The last one was wearing a dragon crown and an official robe. Obviously, he was from the royal family of the Central Plains. Judging from his attire, he should be from the Great Qi dynasty in the eastern region of the Central Plains. The Great Qi dynasty had also sent a royal expert to the eastern region. The 3 experts all carried holy weapons with them. They could use the holy weapons to conceal their aura. Unless it was a quasi-sage, no one would be able to sense their presence. Obviously, The fiend sun was not a quasi-sage. Boom! All of a sudden, 3 waves of sage aura exploded. Countless Saint Tier Dao patterns intertwined and formed an inescapable net that enveloped the entire valley. Countless Dao patterns were imprinted on the ground. In an instant, the sky and the ground were completely sealed by the Dao patterns that rushed out from the holy weapons. Roar! A furious roar came from the valley. Countless demonic patterns appeared in the void around the valley. A demonic formation was activated. However, in the face of the Saint Tier power, the demonic formation set up by the fiend sun was nothing. Countless demonic patterns were directly obliterated by the mighty power of the 3 holy weapons. These 3 guys. Seeing this scene, even Hei Tian was shocked. The 3 holy weapons were actually reviving. It was obvious that these 3 experts had made full preparations beforehand. They were going to kill the fiend sun. The 3 experts activated the holy weapons and pushed forward. The valley was collapsing. Under the peerless sage aura, everything was about to be obliterated. It was extremely terrifying. The 3 holy weapons were a dragon saber, a huge flag, and a bronze cauldron. Roar! A series of dragon roars came from the dragon saber. There seemed to be a dragon soul sealed inside, emitting endless dragon might. In the sky above the dragon saber, there was a vague shadow of a huge dragon. The Great Qi dynasty's Heaven Dragon Saber. At this moment, many cultivators had already arrived nearby. Witnessing this shocking scene, everyone was stunned. Endless sage aura erupted and no one dared to approach. Someone recognized the dragon saber. It was the Great Qi dynasty's holy saber. They didn't expect the Great Qi dynasty to use such a trump card. One had to know that a complete and flawless holy weapon was enough to intimidate all the forces in the human world. Despicable. In the valley, the fiend sun was shocked and angry. At this moment, the holy weapons sealed the heaven and earth and laid out an inescapable net. Unless he was a demon saint, otherwise, even a half-sage would have to suffer. Rumble. The mighty dragon might, the huge flag, the bronze cauldron, and the 3 holy weapons displayed their Saint Tier power, turning the void into chaos. The destructive power caused the heaven and earth to change color. The Saint Tier Dao patterns shattered everything. Layers of demonic qi were constantly being obliterated. The 3 experts were emitting endless divine radiance. They didn't hesitate to consume their essence qi to obliterate the fiend sun. 3 pinnacle experts came with holy weapons. "You guys really think highly of me," the fiend sun roared. At this moment, a demon diagram rushed out from his body, emitting endless demonic light. Demonic patterns emerged on the demon diagram. This was a demon diagram refined by a half-demon saint. There was a terrifying demon saint aura on the demon diagram. However, if the fiend sun wanted to use this demon diagram to protect himself, it was definitely not enough. This is a last-ditch struggle. The expert from the Great Qi dynasty was incomparably powerful. He directly activated the Heaven Dragon Saber and slashed at the demon diagram. The resplendent saber light seemed to split the heaven and earth in half. Chapter 16:19. The Devil Sun was trapped in the valley, and the 3 sacred weapons had sealed off all his escape routes, forcing him to risk his life. Rumble. A devil diagram rushed out of the Devil Sun's body and emitted destructive waves. Countless demonic patterns emerged. This was the powerful power of a quasi-sage. However, in front of true saint-level power, the power of a quasi-sage couldn't change anything. The Devil Sun was already in a desperate situation. As long as the 3 sacred weapons worked together, they would be able to destroy his body and soul. A deathbed struggle. The Great Qi royal family was incomparably domineering. They immediately activated the Sky Dragon Saber and slashed at the Devil diagram. A dragon-shaped saber qi instantly soared tens of thousands of feet and fell down. No one was optimistic about the Devil's Sun. If he could escape from the encirclement of the 3 sacred weapons, then he would be too heaven-defying. Just as everyone thought that the Devil's Sun was about to fall, Hei Tian felt a trace of unease. His premonition had always been accurate. He didn't think much and immediately retreated 1,000 miles. Boom! Just as Hei Tian was retreating, an earth-shattering explosion came from the valley. That devil diagram actually collapsed by itself. Billions of demonic patterns were destroyed and formed a pitilessly terrifying power. The self-destruction of a quasi-sage demonic Tao treasure was earth-shattering and shook the heaven and earth. Even the 3 sacred weapons were shaking and the saint-level Tao patterns were flickering. On the ground and in the void, many saint-level Tao patterns were collapsing. What? No one expected the devil's son to self-destruct his devil diagram. The vast power from the devil diagram even broke through the seal of the 3 sacred weapons and gushed out from the center of the valley. This was definitely a disaster. The self-detonation of the demonic diagram of the quasi-sage level erupted with a terrifying power that surpassed the quasi-sage level. The released destructive power caused everything within a radius of several hundred miles to turn into ashes. The ground sank. Even with the saint-level Tao patterns, the entire ground was shaved off and a huge pit appeared in the outer region of the sky market. Many people were affected and exploded into clouds of blood mist in the void. Under this destructive power, even an almighty would be destroyed in body and soul. Boom! Another loud explosion rang out. A demonic energy even more powerful than the explosion of the demonic diagram exploded. This time, the great Qi imperial family suffered a great impact. His heavenly dragon saber was hit twice and was almost blown away. The sky dragon saber of the great Qi dynasty was one of the treasures of this immortal dynasty. It was a divine saber refined by the ancestors of this dynasty. Compared to other saint weapons, the imperial experts of the Da Qi dynasty could better control their own saint weapons. Only in the hands of the imperial experts of the Da Qi dynasty could the heavenly dragon saber display its greatest power. Roar! The expert from the royal family of the great Qi dynasty let out a furious roar. The draconic aura around his body was vast and mighty. His hands, which were holding the sacred blade, were already drenched in blood. His wrists had already cracked open over a dozen times. He circulated the great dragon Qi in his body with all his might and barely managed to hold onto the heaven dragon saber, preventing it from flying out of his hand. After exploding 2 demonic path magic treasures of the quasi-sage level, the inescapable net laid out by the 3 sacred weapons was torn open by the 2 demonic path powers. Swoosh! A ray of bloody light rushed out from the torn hole. The devil's son was using the demonic blood escape technique. Using his own blood as a guide, he turned into a ray of bloody light in an attempt to escape. What? The 3 pinnacle experts were shocked. At this moment, they had to defend against the terrifying power produced by the explosion of the magic treasures of the demonic path. It was difficult for them to stop the devil's son. I will definitely repay this debt tenfold. The devil's son left a ruthless sentence before rushing towards the sky market. At this moment, the sky market was the only path of survival. There were experts coming from other directions. Swoosh! Just as the bloody light that the devil's son had turned into was about to rush into the sky market, an arrow flew from the sky and shot towards the bloody light. The bloody light was shot by the sacred arrow and immediately dissipated more than half of it. The devil's son let out a blood-curdling scream. In the end, he still rushed into the sky market and disappeared. The expert who had shot the devil's son with the arrow had arrived. However, because he was too far away, he could only shoot the arrow from afar. Once again, the devil's son was severely injured. How is this possible? 3 experts came with saint weapons, but he still managed to escape. Everyone who witnessed this scene couldn't believe what they had just seen. The self-destruction of the demonic diagram and the self-destruction of the mysterious demonic weapon. This devil's son's methods were really ruthless. When the 3 experts had completely destroyed the power of the demonic path produced by the explosion of the 2 magic treasures of the demonic path, the demonic light that the devil's son had turned into was long gone. At this moment, Hei Tian had also disappeared. The sky market was a forbidden ground in the eastern region of the human realm. In this great era of the human realm, there were cultivators in this forbidden ground in the eastern region. Many cultivators entered the sky market when the Great Era arrived. Many young disciples of the Dongfang family and the Zhao family of the Desolate Antiquity were cultivating in the sky market. However, on this day, the cultivators in the sky market welcomed a disaster. A bloody demonic light appeared and disappeared unpredictably in the sky market. Every time this bloody demonic light appeared, it would bring about a massacre. Many places where the demonic light appeared were left with dried corpses. These dried corpses were cultivators whose essence, spirit, and even their flesh and blood had been devoured. It's the myriad devil transformation technique. At the place where the bloody demonic light appeared again, a few dried corpses were left behind. Just as the demonic light left, a figure appeared in this place. It was a handsome young man with a jade-like face and a divine fire fan in his hand. This devil's son is already half dead, but he still dares to do evil everywhere. He Tian muttered to himself. He was the only one who had chased after the devil's son. The three experts who had grasped sacred weapons had also lost him. Swish! He Tian's figure disappeared into the void. He had followed the aura of the devil's son all the way. He was an expert in tracking, and few could escape from his pursuit. Of course, if the devil's son hadn't been seriously injured, even He Tian would have found it difficult to track him. This devil's son had the treasures of the demons on him that could conceal his aura. However, at this time, the devil's son had exploded the treasures of the demons on him. It was no longer possible for him to hide his tracks. In a place where yin qi gathered, a devil shadow was floating in the yin qi. This devil shadow was swallowing the surrounding yin qi, trying to form a devil body. Damn it! The devil shadow emitted a devil consciousness. This wasn't the devil's son's devil body, but an essence spirit. The devil's son's devil body had already been destroyed. To think that the devil's son of the East region would actually end up in such a state. The devil shadow was indignant. The other party had actually used a sacred weapon and didn't abide by the rules at all. However, he couldn't do anything because the demons and the human race were irreconcilable races. I didn't expect you to be hiding here. You really made me look for you. Suddenly, a voice resounded in the void. Upon hearing this voice, the devil's son's essence spirit in the yin qi was shocked. Chapter 1620. The sudden appearance of He Tian shocked the devil child to the extreme. This was a powerful opponent, and with his current state, he was no match for this person at all. Roar! The devil child's primordial spirit emitted a strong wave of divine will. All the yin qi in the yin land immediately gathered towards the devil child's primordial spirit. A strong demonic power was condensing, and within the demonic qi, demonic patterns were faintly discernible. It attracted the essence of heaven and earth from all directions, and a demonic body was condensed. The devil child was rapidly reconstructing his demonic body. Soon, a demonic shadow walked out of the demonic qi, and its blood-red eyes emitted an evil gaze. It's just a last-ditch struggle. What's the use of this? He Tian did not stop the devil child from reconstructing his demonic body. He just stood in the distance and watched the scene quietly. At this moment, the devil child was no longer the devil child who could look down on everyone. Kill. The devil child was still strong. Even though he knew that he was at a disadvantage, he still took the initiative to attack. Endless demonic qi rushed out of his demonic body, condensing into more than 10 demonic spears, and pierced towards He Tian. On each demonic spear, there was a demonic pattern faintly discernible. He was fighting with his life, and did not hesitate to use the source of demonic power to brand the demonic patterns on the demonic spears. Swoosh! Without hesitation, He Tian directly used the invisible divine sword. An almost transparent sword light rushed out from between his eyebrows, and rushed forward. A wisp of holy might was emitted from the almost transparent sword light, which shocked the devil child. This guy had a holy weapon. This time, the devil child was afraid that he would not be able to survive. Without any suspense, He Tian's invisible sword light directly crushed the dozen demonic spears, and then slashed towards the devil child. It was as easy as breaking dry weeds, and there was no way to stop it. The devil child turned into a demonic light and dodged. However, no matter how fast he was, the almost transparent sword light still hit his left arm. Pang! The demon child's entire left arm exploded. His muscles, bones, and flesh all turned into a bloody mist in an instant, dissipating into the void. The smell of blood immediately filled the air. The reconstructed demonic body could not compare to the demonic son's original demonic body that had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times. His demonic body was severely injured after being swept by the invisible sword beam. Die! He Tian pressed forward, and the invisible sword light flew back to him. At this moment, the yin-yang divine power on his body was vast and mighty, and in his divine eyes, there were yin-yang Tao patterns interweaving. Buzz! The formless divine sword trembled, and a transparent sword wave spread out from it. Everywhere the sword wave passed, the void space was shattered, and everything was destroyed. Pu. The demonic son was forced to retreat once again. Demonic blood splattered all over his body. The demonic body that had just been reconstructed was almost shattered by the sword wave emitted by the invisible divine sword. Roar! The devil child roared, and his voice was filled with unwillingness. The demonic blood that splashed out from his body was all blooming with an almost immortal demonic light. Burning the demonic blood was releasing the strongest demonic power. The terrifying power of a mighty emperor was increasing almost infinitely. There was actually a wisp of holy might in the demonic blood. What? He Tian was shocked. This devil child was not simple. He had actually cultivated such a forbidden divine power. He was burning his own power source. Once his power source was exhausted, this demon would be destroyed in body and soul. Demonic fire burns the heavens. I will die with you. The devil child roared. At this moment, not only was the demonic blood outside his body burning, but the demonic blood in his body was also burning. His entire body was emitting terrifying demonic fire. This madman, He Tian, did not want to fight the devil child to the death. The other party had been seriously injured, and he was in peak condition. There was no need for him to fight this demon. Swish! He used the yin-yang steps and quickly retreated. The invisible divine sword constantly emitted waves of sword waves that protected him. Endless demonic fire burned towards him. Wherever the demonic fire passed, the void was silently annihilated. This kind of demonic fire that was formed from the devil child's demonic power source was too terrifying. An extremely terrifying demonic power spread between heaven and earth. The demonic fire instantly enveloped the void for thousands of miles. Buzz! The invisible divine sword vibrated. The saint-level sword chi wave isolated the terrifying demonic fire that was surging towards He Tian outside of He Tian's body. Even so, He Tian still felt great danger. The blood in his body seemed to be boiling. Although the demonic power was mostly weakened by the invisible divine sword chi, there was still a small part that penetrated through the sword light. This demonic power made He Tian feel restless all over. His spiritual soul was shaken, and his mind was almost lost. This kind of demonic power could demonize all living beings. If it was an ordinary almighty emperor, his mind would have been disturbed by this power, lost his mind, and demonized. But who was He Tian? He had been through reincarnation continuously. His mind was so firm that no one in the human realm could compare to him. It was impossible to demonize him. Formation in the void. He Tian roared. A strong wave exploded from his body. Lines of formation patterns began to condense on his body and imprinted themselves in all directions. In just an instant, countless formation patterns flew out from He Tian's body and interweaved to form a shocking killing formation. The killing intent soared into the sky and caused the sky to change color. Rumble! The entire heaven and earth shook. The killing formation was in operation. A total of 108 killing lights rushed out from the killing formation and pierced towards the devil child. The supreme killing lights shattered the void and broke through the layers of demonic fire. It pierced towards the devil child who was in the center of the demonic fire, displaying great power. In the middle of the killing formation, a saint tier power was gathering. This was a one-corner saint formation that had been set up by Erebus. Ancient runes interwove to form a mysterious and unfathomable formation diagram, and a supreme killing light circulated within it. If you want to kill me, you'll have to pay the price. The devil child's voice came from within the demonic fire. An even more powerful demonic fire burst forth from his body. The moment the 108 beams of killing light met the demonic fire, they were refined into nothingness by the demonic fire. Seeing this, He Tian couldn't help but feel shocked. This demonic fire could even refine the saint-tier killing lights. It was really terrifying. If this demonic fire burned one's body, even a half-sage would be destroyed. Very well, I'll let you see what a formation master is. He Tian made up his mind and opened up the world of formations in his body. Countless Tao patterns rushed out from his world of formations and interweaved to form a killing formation. 10 ultimate formation, heaven punishing formation, earth fire formation, 5 elements formation. Great formations appeared one after another, emitting terrifying killing intent and suppressing the devil child. Chapter 1621. He Tian was determined. This was the first time he used the world of array formations that he had cultivated. It was a world formed by endless array patterns, like a treasure trove of array formations. The endless array patterns could interweave into killing arrays. Countless array patterns rushed out of He Tian's world of array formations and killing arrays appeared in the world, emitting terrifying waves. Kill. He Tian used his trump card this time. He roared and controlled the killing arrays to attack the demonic air in the demonic fire. Boom. The 10-terminal formation erupted with endless terrifying power, obliterating the void. A large area of demonic fire was dissipating, and within the demonic fire, the demonic patterns were collapsing. However, the endless demonic fire produced by the demonic air burning his demonic power was too much. The power of the 10-terminal formation was only able to break a corner of it. However, He Tian had more than one killing array. The entire world was shrouded by the killing arrays. After the 10-terminal formation collapsed, the Heaven Punishment Array attacked again. Rumble. The Heaven Punishment Array triggered the power of the heavens. Terrifying lightning descended from the sky and bombarded the demonic air in the demonic fire, bringing with it the destructive power of the 9 heavens. This was a kind of heavenly punishment. It was extremely terrifying, but it was still difficult to suppress the demonic air. Layers of demonic fire swept out from his body, even the heavenly punishment was annihilated in the demonic fire. Roar. The demonic air roared angrily. Demonic patterns collapsed in his body, releasing extremely terrifying demonic power. The collapse of each demonic pattern weakened the demonic air's life force. The collapse of the demonic patterns was irreversible. The demonic air's Tao foundation had been destroyed. These were the demonic patterns that he had comprehended, the foundation of achieving the Tao. He was personally destroying his own hope of achieving the Tao. Compete. You want to drag me down with you even if you destroy your own Tao foundation? You can play by yourself. I won't accompany you. He Tian suddenly sneered. He smashed out more than 10 killing arrays, then used the invisible divine sword to protect himself. He rushed into the sky, broke through the suppression of the demonic fire, and rushed out. When the fiend air saw He Tian leave without a fight, he was so angry that he almost fainted. He destroyed his Tao foundation because he wanted to fight He Tian to the death. He wanted to use his life to kill this opponent. However, He Tian looked through the void with his yin-yang divine eyes and saw the changes that were happening in the demonic sun's body. The demonic sun's Tao foundation had been destroyed and he had no fate with the great Tao in this lifetime. At this point in time, killing the fiend air no longer mattered. Although the myriad demon transformation art was terrifying, a crippled demon son wouldn't be able to cause much trouble unless that peerless demon from the East Region demon lair came out. He Tian was very decisive. After knowing the situation of the devil child, he immediately retreated. This caused the devil child to almost go crazy. This fellow was simply too despicable. The devil son wanted to go all out, but it was impossible for He Tian to really go all out against him. He Tian was extremely cunning, and he would definitely not do a losing business. Damn it, you want to escape. It's not that easy. The devil's son was like a crazy demon as he set off a monstrous demonic fire, chasing after He Tian. At this time, he was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Anyone who met him would be unlucky. He Tian used the yin-yang steps and his speed was extremely fast as he rushed towards the horizon. The terrifying demonic fire enveloped half the sky and burned towards He Tian. This was a terrifying scene. Everywhere the demonic fire passed, all living beings would be burned to ashes. Even the mountains that were burned by the demonic fire silently turned to ashes. The area that the devil's son passed through was truly a place where he could kill everything. Very soon, the two of them chased for thousands of miles. The demonic fire burned the sky, alarming many cultivators. Some people recognized the devil's son, and before long, experts with holy weapons took action. At this time, He Tian had already escaped to a mountain gate. This area was filled with spiritual energy, and there was a white jade gateway outside the mountain gate. The words Xuanji were engraved on the gateway. This was where the East region's major sect, Xuanji sect, was located. Xuanji sect was one of the few major sects in the East region other than the Dongfang family and the Zhao family of the primordial ancients. When the great era of the human world arrived, Xuanji sect was also extremely prosperous. However, this major sect was attached to the Zhao family of the primordial ancients and hitched a ride on the chariot of the Zhao family. The reason why He Tian escaped here was because he had a purpose. "Who goes there?" someone shouted from within the mountain gate. However, He Tian could not be bothered with that person and directly rushed into the mountain gate. Someone tried to stop him, but He Tian merely flicked his sleeves and that person was sent flying hundreds of miles away. Boom! At this time, the devil's son arrived. Endless demonic fire swept down from the sky and the white jade gateway at the mountain gate of Xuanji sect collapsed. Enemy attack! The alarm in Xuanji sect rang and a strong aura rushed out of a pavilion in Xuanji sect. An old man walked out of the pavilion. "Oh no, it's the devil's son." Someone recognized the devil's son and exclaimed. The reputation of the devil's son was earned through fighting. With his strength alone, he had shaken the entire East region and caused everyone to feel insecure. Everyone in the Xuanji sect was horrified by the demon son's attack. Monstrous demonic fire shrouded the entire area and plunged the area into absolute darkness. The demonic fire swept down from the sky and burned everything in its path. The entire Xuanji sect was shrouded in demonic fire. This was a calamity. The demonic fire formed from the power of the demonic path was too domineering and terrifying. Even a semisage would be destroyed in body and soul if they were to be burned by it. The sect master of Xuanji sect was a pinnacle mighty figure and could take that step at any time to become a semisage. However, at this moment, the devil's son arrived. The Xuanji sect master who had just walked out of the pavilion was unable to resist the demonic fire at all. He struggled in the demonic fire for a while before turning into ashes. Rumble! The entire area was shaking. Countless rays of divine light rushed out from various parts of Xuanji sect and interweaved into countless formation patterns in the sky. This was the Xuanji sect's mountain guarding formation. Someone had activated the mountain guarding formation of Xuanji sect. A terrifying pressure surged out from the mountain guarding formation and a wisp of saintly might appeared between heaven and earth. The mountain guarding formation of Xuanji sect was not a saint-level formation. However, when it was activated, it could display a wisp of saintly might because it was a quasi-sage formation. This sect in the East region had once produced a quasi-sage, and this mountain guarding formation was set up by that quasi-sage. It was also because of the existence of this formation that the sects in the East region did not dare to underestimate Xuanji sect. The quasi-sage level formation was activated. This formation was much more powerful than the killing formation that He Tian had set up. One had to know that this was a flawless quasi-sage level formation. The power of the quasi-sage level formation surged and dispersed the demonic fire that swept down from the sky. Even the devil's son was shocked that the power of a quasi-sage could hurt him. This despicable and cunning fellow. At this moment, the devil's son gritted his teeth. He realized that he could no longer sense He Tian's aura. He Tian seemed to have disappeared, and those experts with holy weapons were already nearby. Chapter 1622. He Tian had tricked the devil's son and the Xuanji sect of the eastern region. The current sect leader of the Xuanji sect had been burned to death by the sky-burning demon fire, and the sage-to-be mountain guarding formation had gradually dimmed under the erosion of the demon fire. This was not a good thing. If the mountain guarding formation could not withstand the demon fire and the demon fire swept down from the sky, the entire Xuanji sect would be wiped off the face of the human world. Even though the sage-to-be mountain guarding formation had temporarily blocked the sky-burning demon fire, the terrifying demonic aura still managed to seep into the formation. Roar. A loud roar came from within the Xuanji sect. The eyes of a Xuanji sect disciple suddenly turned blood-red and a crazed look could be seen in his eyes. Traces of demonic aura seeped out from his body. The immortal chi in this Xuanji sect disciple was turning into demonic aura. He was about to turn into a demon. What's going on? Why would he turn into a demon at this moment? The Xuanji sect was in chaos. None of the Xuanji sect disciples had expected that one of them would turn into a demon even though the demon had been stopped outside the sect. Quick, kill him. It will be terrible if he turns into a demon, someone shouted. However, they were all from the same sect after all and no one was willing to take action. They were all at a loss and did not know what to do. Swoosh. Just then, a beam of divine light shot out from one of the halls of the Xuanji sect and killed the Xuanji sect disciple who was about to descend into a state of madness. A white-robed middle-aged man walked out from the hall on the mountain peak. Everyone, focus your energy and focus your mind to resist the demon, the middle-aged man shouted loudly, and some of the people who were already irritated and had their minds wavering immediately sobered up as if they had been hit in the head with a stick. All the disciples of the Xuanji sect sat down cross-legged and began to use the Xuanji sect's mantra to focus their minds to resist the demon. However, the demonic aura was pervasive. Even though they had taken precautions, some of the Xuanji sect disciples who did not have sufficient cultivation were still on the verge of turning into a demon. Many of the Xuanji sect disciples were eventually affected by the demonic aura and went completely crazy. All their immortal chi was converted into demonic aura and their combat strength increased by 10 times. Roar. More than 10 disciples of the Xuanji sect who had fallen into the demonic path attacked their fellow disciples like mad demons. Their demonic chi soared into the sky and many disciples of the Xuanji sect lost their lives immediately. For a time, blood and flesh splattered all over the Xuanji sect. Screams of agony, cries of alarm, and shouts of anger filled the air. Kill. The middle-aged expert immediately attacked. A beam of divine light shot out from his body and instantly flew forward, killing the dozen or so disciples of the Four Stars sect who were frantically attacking the disciples. Demon, where do you think you're going? Just then, a loud shout came from outside the mountain protecting formation and a terrifying wave of energy that made even mighty figures tremble was transmitted into the mountain gate of the Xuanji sect. Even the great mountain guarding array of the quasi-sage level was shaking. Under this pressure, the great array was on the verge of collapsing. The only thing that could cause the great mountain guarding array of the quasi-sage level to collapse was the true might of a saint. An expert wielding a holy weapon appeared. A cold laugh rang out from within the boundless demonic flames. Then, demonic runes began to appear within the demonic flames, drawing in the surrounding spiritual energy from all directions. All the spiritual energy within a radius of thousands of miles was completely devoured in an instant. Boom! With a deafening bang, a ball of demonic fire that looked like a black demonic sun fell from the sky and smashed a huge hole in the great mountain guarding array of the quasi-sage level below. Lines of quasi-sage level formation inscriptions dissipated between heaven and earth. The mountain gate of the East region's Xuanji sect had been breached by the fiend sun. The white jade plaque outside the mountain gate was instantly turned into ashes. This plaque contained a Tao pattern of the Great Tao and was actually an array core. With the collapse of the eye of the array, the entire Great Mountain guarding array of the quasi-sage level came to a halt. The ball of demonic fire also exploded in the sky above the Xuanji sect, engulfing everything in all directions. Even the middle-aged expert from the Xuanji sect did not manage to escape. He was engulfed by the demonic fire and only managed to struggle for a while before his body and spirit were destroyed and he turned into a pile of ashes. Experts of the mighty realm could not withstand such terrifying demonic fire, let alone the other disciples of the Xuanji sect. The entire mountain was enveloped by the demonic fire and turned into ashes. The thousands of disciples of the Xuanji sect were all refined by the demonic fire. The essence, chi, and spirit of thousands of cultivators were all devoured by the demonic fire. With the replenishment of this powerful energy, the devil's son's almost broken body was rapidly restored. Even his left arm, which had been swept by the invisible sword light, was reborn and a new left arm was formed. The Xuanji sect of the eastern region could not escape this calamity after all. Thousands of disciples and even their sect master, who was at the pinnacle of the mighty realm, were all killed. This was definitely a major event that had not happened in the past 100 years. This was because in the past 100 years, other than the Taishen sect of the eastern region being destroyed, this was the second time that a large sect of the eastern region had been destroyed. The forces that could become a large sect of the eastern region were all forces that had existed for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Such a heritage naturally had a deep foundation. This Xuanji sect had once produced a sage-to-be. However, even if the Xuanji sect had produced a sage-to-be, they could not avoid the fate of being destroyed. The destruction of the Xuanji sect was equivalent to cutting off an arm of the Zhao family of the ancients. What a ruthless devil! A loud shout was heard and an immortal holy light pierced through the demonic fire from afar. This was the power of a sage-to-be. Someone was attacking the devil's son with a holy weapon. Demonic blood transformation. The devil's son spat out a mouthful of blood and then turned into a beam of bloody light. He displayed the extreme speed of the demonic way and shot up into the sky, evading the immortal holy light that pierced through him. Buzz! The void shook and a divine mirror appeared in the distant sky. It emitted millions of rays of divine light and shone down on the devil's son. A terrifying holy aura emanated from the divine mirror and shocked the heavens. The layers of demonic fire were like snow under the scorching sun under the illumination of the mirror. They quickly dissipated in the void and turned into nothingness. This was a holy weapon that displayed a wisp of holy aura. Although it was only a wisp of holy aura, it was enough to make the entire world feel like it was about to collapse. The devil's son had destroyed the Xuanji sect and angered a superforce of the eastern region. Someone was using a divine mirror of the ancients to kill the devil's son and destroy his body and soul. Whoosh! The divine mirror shone and the endless demonic fire collapsed. Even though the devil's son had displayed the extreme speed of the demonic way, his lower body was still illuminated by the light. The devil's son felt his body become light and the lower half of his body disappeared from his waist. The destructive power spread up from his waist. His flesh and blood were turned into dust and dissipated in the void. In the end, only his head was left and shot up into the sky. Chapter 1623. After destroying the Xuanji sect, the devil child did not escape. Instead, he displayed his demonic movement technique and headed for the next sect. However, someone appeared with a holy weapon and attacked him. Buzz! The divine mirror vibrated and once again emitted a dazzling divine light that shone towards the devil child's head. As long as the devil child was hit by this light, his body and soul would definitely be destroyed. Boom! Endless demonic power surged out from the devil child's head. Countless demonic patterns interweaved to form a demonic diagram. The void collapsed and this demonic diagram broke through the barrier of heaven and earth. Roar! At this moment, an earth-shattering roar resounded from the void that the demonic diagram had torn open. Then, a demonic light rushed out from the unknown void and directly met the light that the divine mirror had shot over. Boom! The void was shattered, and the demonic light wrapped around a demonic weapon. The demonic weapon collided with the power of the divine mirror, shattering the light emitted by the divine mirror. What? Someone in the dark exclaimed. This demonic weapon could actually compete with a holy weapon. This demonic weapon was definitely a peerless demonic weapon refined by the devil saint. A peerless demonic weapon had finally appeared in the eastern region. The people in the dark were very shocked. Could it be that the peerless demon in the depths of the devil's den was really going to break free? Everyone's expression changed. In the great world of the human world, nothing was impossible. Even the peerless demon did not want to miss this opportunity. The demons that were lurking in the human world were already ready to make a move. You still want me to make a move after all? A voice came from the void that the demonic diagram had broken. Then, a demonic figure walked out of the void and reached out to catch the peerless demonic weapon that flew back. This was a pitch-black spear that emitted a terrifying demonic aura that made all living beings tremble. This was a peerless demonic weapon refined by the devil saint. The spearhead of this spear was suffused with a bloody light as if the immortal blood of a saint was flowing on it. This was a demonic spear that had once killed a saint. The person holding this demonic spear was a young man full of demonic aura. This young man seemed to have just come out of the devil world and was very interested in everything in the outside world. He looked around and took a deep breath. This world is changing. I can feel the aura of an ancient desolate land. The young man was muttering to himself. From beginning to end, he did not even look at the devil child. At this moment, a suction force came from the void where the demon diagram had broken through, sucking in the head of the demon child. Losers, even if they obtain great power, are still losers. The young man whose body was shrouded in demonic chi said. After that, he shook his head. He didn't care about the devil child's failure at all. He didn't seem to have a good impression of the devil child at all. A demon with a peerless demonic weapon? A figure appeared next to the divine mirror in the sky. It was a young woman dressed in white. Her face was covered by a veil, so no one could see her face. The goddess of the primordial Zhao clan? Far in the sky, the cultivators who saw this woman were shocked. They never imagined that the person who was chasing after the devil child with a divine weapon was the goddess of the Zhao clan. In the eastern domain, other than Dong Huang of the Dongfang clan, the Zhao clan of the primordial clan also had a goddess. Some people said that the Zhao clan's goddess had a great background. She was the youngest daughter of the primordial human emperor, the first clan leader of the Zhao clan. Others said that the primordial goddess was a genius that the Zhao clan of the primordial cultivated for nearly 100 years. After cultivating for 100 years, she had already become a peak expert. Moreover, the bottleneck of the primordial goddess cultivation had reached a stage where she was about to break through. She could take that step at any time and become a half-saint. With this level of cultivation, the primordial goddess strength was no weaker than Donghuang's. However, the Zhao clan of the primordial clan and the Dongfang clan were currently in an alliance. Dong Huang and the primordial goddess had never truly fought against each other. However, many people believed that Dong Huang was slightly stronger than the primordial goddess. This was because Dong Huang wore a divine robe and was innately undefeatable. Moreover, he also had a divine spear. Dong Huang had a divine spear for offense and a divine robe for defense. He was well versed in both offense and defense. Even the primordial goddess would find it difficult to suppress such an existence. The Zhao clan's goddess? In the distant sky, He Tian had not truly left. The appearance of the Zhao clan's goddess made his eyes light up. However, even he found it difficult to see the Zhao clan's goddess' true appearance. Outrageous. She's the same as Dong Huang. Both of them are hiding their heads and showing their tails. He Tian couldn't help but curse. However, it was precisely because of this that he became curious about the Zhao clan's goddess. There were only two reasons for a woman to cover her face. One was that she was too ugly and didn't dare to show her face. The other was that she was too beautiful and didn't want others to see her peerless beauty. Was it because she was too ugly or too beautiful? It's actually a woman. Is there no one else in the Zhao clan? The demonic youth stared at the woman in white who was holding the divine mirror and said coldly, "How dare you?" The Zhao clan's goddess tone was equally cold. Moreover, she didn't even bother to speak to the demonic youth. She directly attacked him. Swish. The divine mirror's runes intertwined. An immortal holy light rushed out from the divine mirror, shattering the void and shining towards the demonic youth. Buzz. The demonic youth's face revealed a cold smile. He shook the demonic spear in his hand and rushed towards the Zhao clan's goddess. On the pitch-black demonic spear, demonic runes were awakening. A terrifying demonic aura appeared between heaven and earth, causing everyone's hearts to palpitate. No one knew the demonic youth's origin. However, since this great demon dared to ignore the devil child, his status must be even higher than the devil child's. The demonic youth was incomparably powerful. With the demonic spear in his hand, he directly shattered the divine mirror's light and rushed forward. Boom! The divine mirror radiated an even brighter divine light that shot forward. The terrifying power caused the devilish youth to be startled. The Zhao clan's goddess was actually able to use her own strength to cause the divine mirror to display saintly might. Roar! The demonic youth's long hair danced in the wind. A monstrous wave of demonic energy erupted from his body. The demonic spear in his hand seemed to have awakened as it emitted a wave of demonic energy that wasn't any weaker than the divine mirrors. The two saintly divine weapons collided. The demonic youth and the Zhao clan's goddess were both sent flying. The two divine weapons didn't truly collide, but the power emitted by the two divine weapons still caused the two of them to suffer a great impact. The demonic youth's hands that were holding the peerless divine weapon were bleeding. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. As for the Zhao clan's goddess, she didn't have it easy either. The gauze that covered her face had traces of blood. The two experts' attacks had injured each other. Chapter 1624. The goddess of the Zhao clan of the desolate antiquity held a divine mirror and fought against the demonic youth. Although the two saint weapons didn't really collide, both of them were shocked. "Who are you?" The goddess' cold voice resounded. In the entire Eastern domain, there were only three superpowers: the Zhao clan of the desolate antiquity, the Dongfang clan, and the Eastern Devil Den. Who didn't know about the Devil Son of the East region? However, this demonic young man had never appeared before. Even so, the battle prowess displayed by this demonic young man was enough to make everyone feel fearful. Especially the demonic youth who had a peerless demonic weapon. One should know that even the Devil Son of the East didn't have a peerless demonic weapon. It could only be said that this demon's status in the demons was even higher than the Devil Son. "You don't have the right to know my name." The demonic youth was very strong, but the goddess of the Zhao clan had a saint weapon. He also had some scruples and didn't want to fight her head-on. One should know that the collision of saint weapons could destroy the entire domain. Some experts who had saint weapons usually fought in the starry sky. Battles in the infinite universe wouldn't affect the Ting-Long continent. Swish! The demonic youth held the demonic spear and soared into the sky, flying towards the starry sky. "Those who want to kill me, come at me." The demonic youth's voice spread throughout the entire domain. At this moment, the cultivators of the entire domain were in an uproar. A great demon actually wanted to challenge the experts of the entire Eastern domain. This guy is even more terrifying than the Devil's Son. In the distant sky, He Tian quietly watched this scene. He had a bad premonition that a great change was about to happen in the Eastern domain. The demons of the Eastern Devil Den were about to make a move. "I'll kill you." The goddess of the Zhao clan was the first to chase. She wanted to fight this demon in the starry sky. She had a saint weapon. She could only use it in the starry sky. Many people also soared into the sky and flew towards the starry sky. These people didn't plan to make a move. They were just going to watch the battle. A battle of this level wasn't something they could see every day. No one wanted to miss this battle. Even He Tian flew into the starry sky. Boom! The starry sky trembled as the great battle began. Endless divine light blossomed from the divine boundary in the hands of the Zhao clan's goddess. It was like a resplendent star, releasing blazing divine light. Hundreds of millions of divine rays shot out from the divine mirror and shone toward the demonic young man. The entire starry sky trembled as a true sacred might was awakening. Buzz! The demonic spear in the demonic youth's hand let out a trembling sound. Countless demonic runes appeared on the surface of the demonic spear, interweaving into runes of the Buddha world. Kill! The demonic youth's long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes emitted two rays of black light that were dozens of feet long. His battle intent soared to the heavens. With the demonic spear in his hand, he charged forward. Streaks of divine light were shattered by his demonic spear. He closed in on the Zhao clan's goddess step by step. His demonic might was matchless, causing everyone to be dumbfounded. Too strong. This devil, with a spear in his hand, actually had the power to pierce through the sky. This devil was exceptionally strong, even stronger than the Devil's Son. Rumble! The two sacred weapons were gradually awakening. Two saint-level powers collided. This was a great destruction. Saint-level power broke the laws of this world. Even the laws of heaven and earth could not suppress this power. The void collapsed. Countless stars were shaking as if they were about to fall. The two experts attacked with their sacred weapons. However, the Zhao clan's goddess and the demonic youth were very careful. They did not let the sacred weapons in their hands truly collide with the other's sacred weapons. If the two sacred weapons really collided, even if they had incomparably strong physical bodies, they would most likely suffer injuries that they could not recover from. Even a saint would be in trouble if they were injured by sacred power. Not to mention that the Zhao clan's goddess and the demonic youth were not supreme existences of the saint level. The Zhao clan's goddess was also incomparably powerful. With the divine mirror in her hand, even the void was collapsing. This divine mirror was one of the trump cards of the primordial Zhao clan. At this time, the battle between the demonic youth and the Zhao clan's goddess had already alarmed the entire Eastern Domain. All the experts of the great sects of the Eastern Domain had come. In the starry sky, there were constantly figures flashing. The news of the Eastern Domain's great sect, the Xuanji sect, being destroyed shook the entire Eastern Domain. All the great sects were terrified, afraid that they would be next. There were even people who said that the peerless demon in the Eastern Domain's devil lair was about to come out. The entire Eastern Domain would probably sink and become a demonic domain. At this time, the appearance of the demonic youth undoubtedly made people feel that the rumors were probably true. The peerless demon in the Eastern Domain's devil lair was really about to come out. The place where the Zhao clan's goddess and the demonic youth fought was shattered by the saint-level power. That place had already become a chaotic place. The two experts with sacred weapons were engaged in a life-and-death battle. From time to time, there would be Dao patterns striking out from that chaotic place and then dissipating in the void. These were saint-level Dao patterns. If one was hit by such Dao patterns, it would be an injury of the great Dao. Unless one was a saint, it would be impossible for them to recover. All the spectators hid far away, not daring to approach at all. At this time, He Tian, who was mixed in the crowd, suddenly felt a familiar aura. A figure silently appeared in the starry sky. This was an expert shrouded in a battle robe. The material of the battle robe was also rare in the world. It was a battle robe refined from the ninth heaven meteorite iron. In the entire Eastern Domain, or even the entire human world, there was probably only one such battle robe. And there was only one person wearing the ninth heaven meteorite iron battle robe, and that was Dong Huang. Dong Huang had arrived. Someone noticed Dong Huang and exclaimed. After that, all the cultivators stayed far away from Dong Huang. One had to know that he was also a ruthless character. Not long ago, many people had witnessed Dong Huang's attack. He was a peerless existence. Dong Huang seemed to have no intention of making a move. He just stood under the starry sky, watching the battle in front of him. At this time, there were not many people who could see the battle between the two great experts. The power of the sacred weapon spread out, blocking everyone's divine will. Very few people could perceive everything in that chaotic place. No one knew who won and who lost. However, the appearance of Dong Huang was definitely a variable. Not long after, another person appeared under the starry sky. It was a tall middle-aged man. This middle-aged man held a divine bow in his hand. It's him. It's the expert who shot the devil's son with an arrow. Someone recognized this middle-aged man. This middle-aged man was the one who shot the devil child that day. The divine bow in his hand was a saint bow. This saint bow was engraved with ancient Dao runes. There was a boundless ancient aura emanating from the bow. Yet another saint weapon-wielding expert had arrived. T.